this since 2017 when I first ended up being disabled and knowing that I wasn't going to be able to meet all my life's goals and dreams. So let me explain. Because the doctor said, hey, do you want to live to see your children graduate from high school? And if you've heard me talking at all in any of these chats or streams, the most important thing to me is my children. The most important thing to me is black children, right? And in that moment, I was like, okay, what you gonna do, girl? I decided to get myself together and become the black woman that I wanted my sons to look for in a wife. So I lost weight. I went to school. I opened a daycare after a while, and I became a chef in my own right. But all of those things were just for my one purpose and goal, and it will always be that. My one purpose in this world is young, black.
Citizens, how's your spirit? Mine, glad to be live. Hold on just 1 second. Uh-oh. Had to check on something there. Okay. Anyway, tell me what is going on with y'all. These YouTube streams are something serious. How's my spirit anyway? My spirit is fantastic as always. Y'all know me. If I'm on time, I'm late. If I'm late, I'm late. So what am I getting ready to do? Go ahead and get this bowl right because I completely don't have myself together yet. We're gonna do some space cake OG or some space cake, excuse me. Hey, there goes my guest in the back. She's so cute and gorgeous. Y'all, she's so adorable. Okay, listen, we gonna pull you up because your theme song. Hey, gorgeous, how's your spirit?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Make sure this sounds okay. Hey, knowledge and relationships. Thank you so much for showing up. Now, honey, listen, I've been in these YouTube streams today, so I'm a little bit behind schedule. I was supposed to have this packed before we get started, but I
Okay.
came across this dude named Micro Farmer. He's on right now with Mr. Real Estate because Darrell didn't have another channel taken down, child.
Okay.
Right. But Micro Farmer grows cannabis but does not consume it. But he's got an end of the world drink that's got cannabis in some um, like sitting in some E&J. And so I was so fascinated to hear him talk about what he was doing that I lost track of time. So tell me, how's your spirit? How's your day? What did you see in these YouTube streams that make you decide to join this discussion?
Okay. My day has been well so far. Just a lot of one-sided conversations. About fathers, about black men, about black fatherhood. Um, which then I think connects to the black sons that I'm raising. I'm not sure how we're not making that connection. Right? And how problematic these conversations are for the future of our children. And so, yeah, that's pretty much has been my observation. What about yourself?
A similar thing. One of the things that I also noticed, we keep talking about this generational divide, and what I'm coming to see, knowledge and relationships, I'm going to make you guys a moderator. What I'm coming to see is that, like, the way that people say that they didn't like Twitter and Instagram or whatever, they don't like their children. Like, you don't like what your children like. You don't find a reason to be interested in what your children like. You talk down about your children and what they like. How are your children supposed to gain any esteem or self worth from you? Go ahead. What'd you lose?
One
Oh,
minute,
there you go.
please.
Uh-huh. It just, y'all, it's a thing to me how we end up in these spaces and in these ways. Let's see. So we're gonna do what's your theme song? I hadn't actually thought about it, y'all, because like I said, I've been out here in these YouTube streams doing other stuff. Uh, in this particular moment, this one's always great. Oops, I should share my screen, huh? I'll do that in a second. There it is.
My apologies.
You're good, darling. Do you have a theme song?
No, I didn't think about that.
I like your nerve. I like now, Hanifa. How many times you've been seen this stream? Consider coming up here. You know you're supposed to have a theme song. What happened? You
My
thought
mind
because
was
JP
on,
just coming back, she don't know how to
my
ride a
mind was
mic.
on getting these. I know my mind was on getting these children organized so that I can actually live stream because my son's dad is on his way back, but he hasn't entered in the house yet. So I'm
Got
trying to
you.
like, yeah.
Um, let's just talk about that for just a moment. I asked this question in the Facebook group and no one answered. I guess, it's an uncomfortable subject, especially if you didn't know. And I'm willing to admit that I'm of a generation that didn't know. Hey, Emerged, how's your spirit, sis? Thank you for joining. Um, I knew that black men, I'm sorry, I knew that men experienced um,
How's your spirits?
anxiety or postpartum, you know what I mean? But
Hmm.
I didn't know, to what extent until recently. And just before we start talking about black men in general or black boys and raising them, what was the experience like for you finding out that you were pregnant with a boy? And then did you ask or were you told what it was like for your partner when he found out?
Well, for my first son, it was different because I was a Christian at that time. I was married. And I was a Christian at that time. I'm no longer a Christian. Um, so it was a little bit different because I think, without getting too deep into details publicly, that situation is a little different. So I'm going to speak to this, my second son. His dad had already had sons, so he had the experience already. I already had a boy. And then by the time I had, because my children are 7 years apart. Right, right. So the 3 year old is having a very much different experience in a lot of ways than the 10-year old, believe it or not. Why? Because my level of consciousness has shifted significantly. So if your consciousness has shifted, your parenting also has to follow, just as every other thing in your life follows. So I want to say the 3 year old entered into my space, where I was very, very, I've been aware of like the world and so forth, since I was like really young, 12, 11. But as an adult and a mother, once I got my son, I realized just how much I had already been getting prepared for it through the journey of knowledge of self,
Hmm.
because that's important as mothers. It's very, as black mothers who are raising black sons, you have to be aware of the situation that we have found ourselves in as black people, whether I'm a man or a woman. So that has helped. So it's helped how I educate my children, what I talk to them about. Um, I didn't have that fear. There's some mothers that say it's like the anxiety of, oh Lord, I'm about to raise a black boy in America.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily had that. I think I'm a little bit more excited and optimistic about raising boys who can go out and make a difference.
I am in agreement with you. One of the things that was important to me, I'm going to play this song just because your accent, not the same. I do know this made me think about it. And second, um, the song itself, Three Little Birds. Well, I had three young men.
Wow.
And one of the most important things to me was when we were out and about, was that they were responsible. We were all responsible for one another, but I never wanted to call their names out. So I had a thing where I would say, I see one, and then two and three would sound off. So one was the oldest, and two and three were the youngest. Now they had names, right? But I don't, being conscious of the world that I lived in. I didn't want people calling my children's names, just outright. I didn't want my children to answer to just any Robert or any whatever it was. And so
Mhm.
I put things in place. Looking at it today, it's just like I really feel like part of the reason why we're seeing such a huge shift, one away from um, so much of what was traditional, is because the traditional didn't keep children in mind at all,
Mhm.
right? It was so much of this do as I say, not as I do culture. Um, you only speak when you're spoken to.
Oh yeah.
Um, you're going to learn what I tell you to learn. You're going to be what I want you to be. Not thinking about the individual. And you're right, knowledge of self mattered. I tell people all the time, I was woke when I was 11. By the
Mhm.
time that I had my first child, I was already having religious debates on what was brand new AOL, child, like, so to come full, in a way, my life has come full circle in that regard. I was in a dutiful but unhappy relationship as a Muslim woman. um I thought I was doing what it was that I was required to do. I took the knockarounds. Hey, Quantum Love and Rashawn, thank you so much for showing up. And that's not to put any shade really on their father either. We were
Mhm.
19 and 20 or something like that when we got married, right? You don't know what you don't know, and under heavy circumstances. But at the end of the day, we had these fellas, and I knew what they were being born into. And then to have three of them, three. That's three different little man-filled personalities with all the testosterone all the way up to the chin that you can imagine. And looking at these grown men in these spaces and these women talking so negative about them in these spaces, I'm like, I don't want none of y'all anywhere near my sons. Um, so right here we're gonna stop. We're gonna play the theme song. Hopefully by now you done started working on yours. In the chat, y'all know the deal. If you got a theme song, let me know. We'll play it. We're going to start with this one though. Fair use for spiritual healing. Now, y'all, we did this last time, and they didn't knock it right away, but then they came back and Sony copyrighted me because I bragged about it on Instagram. But I'm also copyright claiming it because in my mind's eye, dadgummit, that's not the one I want. In my mind's eye, they want me to not fight. And so for right now, I'm going to fight. I'm going to argue, and I'm going to state that when everybody comes here, they come in whatever mood that they do. But if I can get you into a better mood, and when you leave here, you don't feel icky, then this is a ministry and we have done our job. So that is how I understand it. Y'all show up, laugh, smile, dance, and be happy. And that is what works. I don't know why that didn't come up last time. Sorry, y'all. Hold on. The right screen didn't want to share. And then I'm also going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat. Um, as I said, you guys, Darrell Long lost his channel. By the way, it's just Darrell Long. So if you want to go over and put it in, I'll grab the link in a little bit. Or if one of the moderators who's here can grab the link, I would greatly appreciate it. And again, this one is, I said, Three Little Birds with Bob Marley. I love this song. I love seeing that one where the older people are dancing to it. Come on, thing. That's all right. How's the sound, you guys? Hey, Mimsy, how's your spirit? So glad to see you. Don't worry, hey, about a thing. Cause every little thing's. Thank you. I don't know why the screen is not acting right, y'all, but I will wait until afterwards to fix it. All right. Who's got a theme song for me while we wait? Talk about it. Let's see here. I said that we were doing some Purple Mr. Nice Guy and some space cake. I've shown you guys the space cake several times, but one more time, I'm pretty sure I showed you the Purple Mr. Nice Guy, but I've never seen a Purple Mr. Nice Guy so sexy. Do you see this? Do you see how purple that is? You see that? I mean, that bad boy right there is as dark as that purple behind Hanifa right now. Fantastic, y'all. I be having a good time over here. Keep talking smack about me and my weed. The rest of them weed smokers are coming to join this party and then see what happens. We don't play, just so you know. Let's see what she got in the back for me. Okay, here we go. Anifa gave me a theme song. All right, so I'm using the purple Mr. Nice Guy for the anti-inflammatory properties in the purple. I did have a berry smoothie with some cherries and cherry juice in it before I got started, just to make sure that I would be able to be here a little bit longer today. And then, y'all, I need to move this. Give me 30 seconds. Ta-da! I'm smarter than the average bear. When I put my mind to it, I can do it. Okay. Anita's theme song is I Am Not Afraid. I think that's one of the requirements, Anika, that you have to not be afraid when it comes to Black motherhood. Like, there's a different level. If you go into it with fear now, I can understand. I think I'm willing to attest to the fact that the weight of it at some point can bear on you. And then the strain is different. But if you go into it with a fear mindset, not understanding who they are and whoops and what they're about, you're really likely to end up in a situation where no one is growing or winning. So, all right, here we go. Is it Atana? Let's go that way. Here we go. I'm not afraid. Hey, you got to unmute yourself.
We don't we don't get to hear it?
You can't hear it?
No.
It's doing something strange. Okay, hold on. I am going to close it again. Why is it doing that? So, you guys, seriously, since I've come back, and even before I left this last time, my computer has done all kinds of weird, icky stuff. People have been on Instagram trying to get me to get all kinds of scams and whatnot. I'm like, you people need to chill out. I'm not that dim. I mean, anyway, let me get my act right and find my music. Oh, yeah, this one. So y'all didn't hear the last song, or did you hear the last song?
No.
That is an irritant. Okay, let's see here. Oh, don't want that one. That one. I want that one. And I want to share. Okay, now you can see it. So now let's just start with this and make sure that it works. Oops. I was playing too much of these YouTube streams. Get a little God in here and act right. All right. Can y'all hear the music now? Fair
No.
use? You still can't hear the music? Y'all just bugging me right now. Hold up. I'm telling you. It's out to destroy me. You can hear it.
Yes.
Sweet! All right. We just gonna get started. I'm gonna get my act right real quick. Now that I got my act right, excuse me. Fair use, spiritual healing. Shout out to all of y'all. Carry you. Shout out to Rashawn. I'm gonna fight this fight and then lose at this point. Okay, now let's go back to your song. Sorry about that. Stop that. I'm telling you, that one note, like I play it every morning and then dance on my porch and irritate my neighbors. That's how you scare some predominant culture people. Be black, smile, and dance on your porch.
Soul, wanting to take control, wanna give me laughs, wanna give me play, wanna give me all the material things. I hear them talking about what the world has to offer. Girl, what you doing? Don't you see what they have done to Bedouin and Marcus, Jesus, and all of the prophets? But I'm not afraid, no. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, if them a come, let them come, cause I'm protected by the Most High One. They don't mind when you fall behind and can't pay your bills on time. Prostituting and standing in a them government line.
I like that one. I'm gonna have to hang on to that one for later. I'm gonna have to start saving the playlist again now that I'm back in action, and send them to you all. I have a whole plan going, child, but getting the inner workings behind the scenes of people, Hanifa. Okay, one more thing before we get started, because I want to ask your perspective. You know me, I do my best to hold myself accountable.
Mhm.
Recently, I was on with Black Man Unfiltered, and the question was um, immigration. Does the Black community take it or leave it? And I was like, no, we don't. We don't need it at all. I was very forward and aggressive. I was like, nah, you came over here and bent the knee. We were forced to come over here. Y'all came over on planes and on top of boats and was like, hey, we'll assimilate, no problem. That shit to me is a problem to the ancestors, right? But my question is, because you sit in that other space, right? You're not American Black, so to speak, but you are with a Black man. So, and your children are Black. So how do you feel you have a role to play outside of Black mothering in the community, and how do you want that to be seen?
Well, let me just preface it by saying how I grew up. I grew up around. Ooh, boy. Okay, so let me go back a little bit. My mother came into, okay, so when Bob Marley died, right? I was born. So before that, there was a whole movement, a whole Rastafari movement that swept the Caribbean. I mean, swept it, right? Which came with the teachings of the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, which was the teachings of liberation for Black people, Pan-Africanism, and so forth, right? So that swept the Caribbean. Now I was born in the 80s. So then I'm born into that wave already that's already happening. My mom had the locks, all of that stuff, right? Didn't eat meat. So, and then my dad, long locks. I come from that, right? My dad is still very much alive. Like these are the parents that I come from. And so I was born into it. That wasn't my choice. And so about maybe the age of, I want to say about 11, 12, maybe no, coming out of middle school, I kind of got swept into, I started to grow my locks. I had a perm, and I was so anxious to grow my locks that I just let the perm grow out, and what you guys call free form.
Yes.
I just kind of let my hair grow, and then the little perm ends just fell off, right? So I stopped eating meat. I was
You
you
went
know,
full tilt.
yes, I was reading like crazy. I was hungry for knowledge, and even though that information had always been around me, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to make this clear. Even though my mom wasn't a Christian or anything of that sort. She came from a Catholic family. But my mom baptized us in Black consciousness through music every day. So Lucky Dube, Burning Spear, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh.
Oh, yeah.
This is the type of music that I heard in my house, right? Music that tell me that Christopher Columbus was a liar, Burning Spear, right? That make me go and say, well, what is he talking about? So this is the environment that I grew up in. So I don't really feel like, and then I got into full blown like Rastafari, right? Studying the Bible. That's when I first got into the Bible. And so my consciousness, I've never seen myself as separate from the Black collective anywhere. If I go to Brazil, I'm still going to see myself as part of the Black Brazilians. Me coming here, the same thing. Where I'm from is a territory of the United States. So even though I am a Caribbean woman, when I am born an American citizen, right? So I don't have to go through the immigration process. I don't even know what that looks like, right? There's no green card. All I need to do is hop on the plane and come here, just like Puerto Ricans do. And by the way, we're the neighbor of Puerto Rico.
Right.
So just to put that into perspective, I've always had that around me. Uncles, cousins, my mom. It's just always been there. So when I got here, I never saw myself as separate. However, as I mature, I do understand that Black Americans have a different experience. Yes, the Caribbean has also had their own form of slavery. Okay. Actually, to be honest, when you read the history books, some of the most brutal of punishment was happening across the Caribbean. In fact, they were swapping ideas with slave owners here in the Americas, right? I mean, in North America, right? So when you read that history, you understand that as well. But I never saw myself as separate to say I can't relate to JP simply because JP was born in one of the states in America. I know that if JP is not free, then I am not free. I understand that very clearly. Because if you're not free in America, I can't come here and think I'm free. That's impossible. So I'm very aware of that. I've been aware of that for a very long time. But my experience as a Caribbean, because I came to the States when I was already 17, turning 18. So I was raised on the island. Practically, I practically was a young adult. But as far as my children, I raise my children like they're Black American children because that is exactly what they are to me in my head. You know what I mean? I don't sit and say you just need to learn Caribbean history. You just need to learn Ugandan history because his dad is Ugandan. Like I don't. It's like where are you living right now? This is what you need to learn about first because this is the space you have to navigate first. So that's kind of how I teach my sons. But me as a parent, I'm a Black woman, right? I'm a Black woman. Before I even had a nationality, I was a Black child. You get what I'm saying? So this thing of nationality, and because there's nationality, ethnicity, race, right? My race to me is what I kind of like go to first. But I'm very aware of it and I'm very careful even in the conversations with Black Americans, because for a long time I'd be like, man, we're one. And a lot of immigrants do that as well. We're one. But the reality is, yes, we are one with different experiences. Yeah. And those experiences must be respected in order for us to have progressive conversations.
I appreciate that because this, I'm finding that there's this theory that because you are compassionate towards Black men or you lead towards understanding people in general, that somehow you won't take a stand for something or you won't come out swinging when necessary.
Right.
And you got to make it clear, a line in this. I will come for your throat if necessary, especially if you come for my children. And what I'm witnessing, in some ways, looking at these YouTube streams, it's the same thing. Like these titles, these things, these people projecting their own stuffs, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you say it's a hurt, then it's, you know, oh, well, you're, listen, I'm a mother of three men now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's hard enough. They're not gonna let you in. And like, listen, I done had you, I done had female teachers, female. I just want to break from women's voices for a while, right? So learning when to push, when not to push, when to ask, when not to ask, and seeing what's going on in the world. Like the same way that I ask everybody here, how's your spirit? I text the fella, how's your spirit? What you need? What can I do? Like, I guess my question is, knowing how many youth are coming into this space because they understand that there's still money to be made in the social media space, or it's the wildest new. Um, what advice do you give to your children or your yeah, what advice do you give to your sons now, saying, you know, this is social media, this is this being in it? What advice can you give them differently than you did first coming in?
Gosh, JP, that's a tough one because, yeah, because my 10-year-old, I have a 10 and a 3-year-old. My 10-year-old is very much more so aware of specifically YouTube, but he usually watch like Minecraft stuff on YouTube. Um, okay, I want to say this because this is I want to definitely preface it by saying this. My 10-year-old son is not, I don't even want to use the word typical, but he is not that 10-year-old that know what like Jordans are, um, certain type of music. He's just not exposed to it because his dad is an immigrant as well from the continent. So he's also an older dad, which matters, by the way. He's a much older dad. So there's a lot of things that he's not exposed to. So I don't tend to have certain conversations. But I know in this media in general, not just this space, we do talk about it because he is an impressionable mind. And so when he watches certain things, he can easily think that that is like the truth. What he's watching is the truth. You know, he when I went to pick him up recently, he said, "Do you know that Russia and Ukraine are about to go to war?" And I was like, "You've been watching the news, huh?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Why do you think that is?" So we had a conversation about that. We also had a conversation about how America filters their news, right? So what I did was bring it to his level, right? He's so diplomatic. So my question was, if you run a country and you wanted people to think a certain way of a country, but there are other people outside your country saying certain things, wouldn't you manage what gets to your people? And he was like, well, I would allow the people to choose what's right or wrong. That's what I mean. He's still a child. He's still a child, JP. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, but I had to explain it to him on that level. So we have the conversations around media. We have the conversations around propaganda, right? Because that's one of the tools that have been used on people like us and black people for a long time, and it's still being used. So I have to talk to my son about propaganda, what it is, what it looks like, how it shows up in movies, all of that. So we have those conversations. So it's not specifically YouTube. We're not there yet because all he's watching is these boring Minecraft videos that drive me crazy. Okay. But I know that he consumes media through television, through movies, and there's always these like subliminal, undertones, in these movies, even Disney movies.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to talk about that. So my last example, JP, would be his idea of what adolescent is. He got that from watching. He got that from watching certain movie series. This is how teenagers act. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could kind of see that shaping, and so we have to have those conversations, but not specifically about YouTube.
Yes.
But media itself, yes.
Media, yeah, definitely. Thank you for answering. Shout out to the intellectual or at the intellectual soapbox for coming in. Thank you so much, new YouTube subscriber. I mean, YouTuber, by the way, sort of. Marcus Rodriguez, thank you. Sim, I appreciate you guys being here. Quantum Love, Simon Hectic, anybody I missed, I apologize. Rashawn, or one of the moderators, if you will make sure that Hanifa's link gets dropped, and also I'm going to drop the StreamYard in about 20 minutes. Okay. So for me, I was coming along. I've been on the same track as media, so to speak. I was born in 75. I guess like right when media became the right. So I am a child of this thing. And as I could see it folding, when my eldest was starting to get into social media, I was like, hey, I'm working in this spaces. They're going to see your name and see it as a brand. I don't know how far down the line that's going to be, but I already see people putting it on their resume. So get your act right. If you like anime, what you don't want to do is be out here talking stuff about. You understand? Trying to frame it to a young man in a way that he could. Yeah, you can't be talking about the fan service in the videos if you want to be able to go. And the fact that our children have to know that, though, in some ways, yes, everyone needs to know it, but it's so much more of a delicate thing, right? And like you, my consciousness grew as I parented. So I had knowledge of self when I had my eldest. We were 5% first, and then Muslims.
Oh
I was
my,
Muslim.
okay.
Yeah, I was a Muslim for 13 years.
Okay.
It just so happens that when I got pregnant with my youngest son, I had to take off my hijab. I was like overheating. And now I understand it to be something different from a spiritual standpoint, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so I fully understand why my body works the way that it does. But then I was like, I got to, not with, it's a boy in here kicking me all day long. We got to come out these clothes, right? So, but I grew over time but in a way, I'm not sure that I grew. I just understood that each of them was their own individual from the rip. And in the beginning, you do what you know is necessary, and you love on them, and you try to make sure that you give them the best understanding that you have. And then as they get to a certain point, 6, and they become autonomous, that part, that's when a true test to me of a mother of sons comes into play, right? Because girls, when they get their autonomy, they just get real lippy. But fellas, they get and they be ready to take on anything. And I was watching that episode with I was watching the Family Game. I was on it. Let me be honest. To me, it felt like watching it because I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is what my sons were doing." Like they were talking about the dangerous games that they played, jumping off of stuff, terrorizing each other with things, and I was just like, "But I just sent you outside to get some fresh air. Y'all trying to." I understand it from the adult male aspect of the low level aggression. Now I understand where it started from. I guess they just come out with that thing, kind of like. How did you deal with that difference? Like, I'm sorry, it presents itself differently when you have sons than from being a daughter and having that dynamic with siblings.
Yeah. I grew up in a family of all girls. I'm the youngest of 5 girls.
Me, I'm the youngest. I'm the middle of 3.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 5. So the whole idea of, and I want to put it into perspective. I am not only that, I also grew up in a single parent home. So so the idea of like manhood and just how boys are wired, right, was fairly new to me. I think I came in a little bit more into that knowledge maybe in my 30s, right? And I would even dare say more so after I got divorced. Because I think once I began to do some work and look in retrospect, I could see the things that I could have done better, right? Or differently in dealing with a man, right? But when I had my last son, the one that's 3 now, I want to say there's a little bit more things that I'm a little lenient on, simply because I have a better understanding of boys and how they were out think and how they perceive the world and so forth, right? And not projecting that female or girl expectation onto them simply because I'm a woman, simply for convenience sake, right? Because this is what makes me comfortable as a woman. So learning how to sort of like walk around that, that they're gonna jump off the couches, sometimes. Their temper looks a little different. It's not a lot of chattiness, but there's a lot of shutting down that happens. What do I do when that happens? Allowing them the space that they need, right? When they're upset, allowing them to be upset, right? Which includes crying at times. Okay, but it took me a while to be here. Now I was very deliberate in my parenting with my first son, 10 years old. Always been deliberate. One of the things I went in to parenting with is I will not put my hands on my child, period. That was something his dad and I, we came into agreement on, right? Once I made that decision, then there were other things that I was able to look at. And again, it's over the years, the layers are falling, like peeling back. And you're like, wait, no, I'm not doing that, So it's almost like I was growing while I was parenting. So we were both growing together. But that was one of the first things I went into parenting with, is that there would be no belts being picked up. I would not be hitting my son across his head, none of that. And that helped me tremendously in parenting him, because when he would have the tantrums, the things that we would probably get whooped for, I had to see it through. I had to find an alternative. I had to work with him through it. I had to learn not to see every single little thing that a child does as a disrespect when they're really just self-expressing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a lot. But I've evolved so much as a mother, and I'm still evolving. There are still things that I learned something new about my 10-year-old the other day, right? And so then now I said I have to take that and I have to apply it to my parenting, because I didn't realize it was such a big deal to him. But I was the one doing it, right? Which then I'm like, wait a minute, it's almost like I'm bullying my child, because this makes him uncomfortable, whereby another child it may not. But him, he's like you said, JP, he is an individual. So it's like, if he makes him uncomfortable, then I cannot do it, even if it doesn't make another child uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So I learned something. This is 10 years later, parenting him, that I can't do this anymore, and I have to proceed a little differently. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're boys, and you're eager to project certain feminine stuff on them, and I know we're going to get into the father piece. This is why fathers being present, as if we can, it's so important. There is no such thing as me being my child's mother and father. That's just not possible,
It is
because
not.
I cannot. It's not.
Listen, I'm gonna say this in advance, and I'm gonna say it here first. Y'all can say you had it. If there is a female, you do not start with the I'm the daddy and the mama on Mother's Day and on Father's Day.
Happy Father's
What
Day to
is
you.
wrong with y'all? That don't make no good doggone what. Anyway, I agree with you on the father aspect, but what I can say is this: being one of three girls, and having a we're out of the South where spankings are a thing.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, he said, "Oh, hey, knowledge and relationships. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Wanda Washington. I missed you, child. Hey, she stole my thunder." One of the things that I can say is that my father admits or says now, that um, he kind of raised us to work like boys and act like girls.
Mhm.
you know, because there were no sons to help with the yard. There were no sons to help move the furniture. There was no,
Mhm.
you know, and yeah, he was one of those people who was kind of, to himself and a loner, and family meant something to, we were together inside of the house. We
Mhm.
hung out. We were weird enough to, be dancing in the den at night, and we weren't out and about getting into things, right? Um, and so in that regard, though, we I did have some more masculine tendencies growing up. I also
Mhm.
understand that now, understanding that I have Asperger's, that's kind of part of it. But so when I looked at my sons, I was like, "Oh, y'all want to wrestle? We can wrestle. I'm down on the floor with them. I'm ready to go. Oh, you want to bang on something? We can bang on whatever you want to. Let's do that." One of the things that I think is happening and causing people not to care for their children, and I don't mean you don't actually care for them, but to not like them, is because there's that disconnect from your own childhood in some way, right? You can't see the joy in those things because you're so far removed from it, being the pressures of work, being pressures of the economic things that are, I mean, the mental health capacity, the mental capacity that it takes to be able to be a mother and the provider and the fixer of things, or the caller, the coordinator of the entire symphony. Like, how do you how best would you express that part of it? Because I was technically still am married 26 years, Lord. Anyway, working on it. Um, um, and I understand I did my duty then, and I don't. Like I said, I don't hold anything against either one of us in that regard.
Mhm.
But I understand the difference between that and a love with someone who understands who I am. We
Yes.
understand one another, right?
Yes.
How do you express that difference to your sons and to young men so that they know how to move differently when dealing with their children and their families?
What do you? Which difference are we speaking about?
Like, so to not be so one-sided in the push. Like,
Oh.
I understand that there's masculinity, but to
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just be, that part.
Yeah,
To
it's
the
so
more,
it's so interesting because when you were talking, I was very tomboyish when I was younger, right? I played basketball, softball, like I hung out, I played marbles in the dirt. I mean, wherever you could think of, I was doing at a young age, but I also grew up in the hood. So hood children, we just the fun to us looks a little different, right? And yeah, and I think that people don't understand that a lot of women, when you grow up in the hood, you take on this really hard exterior. It's a survival mechanism, right? It just is. But I want to say, as I got older, once as I became a woman, I became much softer. Now I still have that side to me where I'm not that far removed. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But it's still there. But with my sons, no. Because here's the reality: my sons' fathers are there in their lives. I don't need to show up with that energy. They already have that energy available to them. They're already going to learn that. So what do I need to show up as woman, right? Because that carries so much. When they cry, uh and I wanted to go back a little bit, JP. You said something earlier, and I was like, let's be real. A lot of us, our examples of parenting is one of duty, not fun. So you talking about going getting on the floor with your sons, and so a lot of us did not witness that because our parents was about maintaining a roof over our head, feeding us, what I'm saying, getting clothes on our back, making sure that we stay in school, whatever that was. It was just duty. This needs to be done. So there was not a whole bunch of like leisure and playfulness. So a lot of us, the version of parenting that we've inherited is one of duty, one of fun. I mean, not fun, one of hardness. This is what parenting looks like. So we've inherited that, right? And it takes us to acknowledge that in order to change it.
yeah,
So for me, because I'm constantly working on me, I always look for ways in how I show up as a woman in my son's life, because I understand the importance of that feminine aspect or essence in their life. I understand the importance of balance. So when they cry, are they going to need someone that teaches them get up and dust it off? Yes. But they're also going to need someone, woman, because that's what we do, that tells them and creates safe spaces for them to cry. Because both of those things can happen. You can cry, but you also need to get yourself up and go at it again. That's the balance, right? So I am not going to say I'm raising boys, so I can't, what we say, we use the word baby them too much, right? There's no such thing when the balance is already available. Their father is there for that part. What is my role? My role is for them to not be afraid to tap in, because I believe we all have feminine and masculine in us, and we go in and out of them throughout the day all the time, because there's some things that require feminine energy and some things that require masculine energy. So it is my job to make sure that my sons feel secure about tapping into that when necessary, where crying is not a sin, it's not blasphemous to cry, but you also need to be able to tough it out as well and get back up and go at it again. That is where the masculine comes in. My job is to bring them to my bosom, you understand me, and to love on them and to tell them it's going to be okay. That is my job as a mother.
Yeah. I have to say, this is one of the reasons why I appreciate you being here, and my plans are what we've talked about in the background, because I know, and more every day I become aware of how privileged my children and I have been, right? Because not only did they grow up in a two-parent household for as long as possible, my parents, I grew up in a two-parent household. We were military middle class. My grandparents and the people who raised me in childcare were middle class Black people, and we're talking about the 70s forward, coming just coming out of segregation. That means that we were doing something back there, right, to be able to do that. So I've always told my sons, you got to be service minded. Not all of your peers have the same set of opportunities and standards that you do. Your friends want to come to the house and hang out and eat all the snacks. Okay, that's cool. I have to meet their parents first. Until then, they can sit on the porch and kick it with you and play whatever it is you got. Y'all can have popsicles and do whatever. We lost that, you know. Um, and how do we, before we get into fathers, with so many of the young men, I was going to play this video from, but I'm happy to have this conversation without it, that was talking about young men no longer dating because of what they're witnessing.
Mm-hmm.
I know my experience as being a mother on the other side of it, but being right in the midst of your children getting ready to, well, one of them anyway, getting ready to hit puberty and those things. What are you considering when counseling him on how to move into adolescence?
So are we including like the dating piece as well in there?
That's up to you. I mean, he ain't gonna be dating at 12, I presume, but I don't know, exactly what the plans are. I don't know, y'all got betrothals going on or how that works. We're doing all kinds of stuff these days. I don't know.
Yeah, here's what I know. My background is in psychology. My degree is in psychology, right? So one of the things that and childhood development as well. So one of the things that I'm aware of, you mentioned earlier this idea of, do as I say, not as I do, right? What I've learned is that children learn best by example, by modeling, right? Now, I don't talk to my son about relationships, right? He's 10. However, I know when he was like maybe 2 years ago, he would talk about his, being married and so forth. Recently, that has changed, but it has changed in the sense of, I think I'm going to kind of like he said, be with myself and do the things I want to do first. Why? So of course I'm now digging as to, okay, you change, your tongue has changed. he understands the responsibility that comes with being a husband. He's very aware of it. He's very aware of that. Okay. He's very aware of, I need to make sure I have so that I could be able to give whoever comes into my space. He's very aware of that. That is not something I have sat and talked to him about. That is something his father, who has since me remarried, has modeled for him. He's seeing it, right? And I think a lot of what's happening with our young people is that they're not seeing it. They're seeing marriages, some of them, but they're not seeing happy marriages. And there's a difference. So this, and even when we talk about two-parent households, people get mad when I say it, but I'm like, I know messed up people that came from two-parent households. I know single mothers who are married. Literally. I mean, that's a thing. Yes.
Let me just speak to that.
Go ahead.
I know we're on we're headed towards the father piece anyway, and I'm getting ready to drop the link because I know some gentlemen will want to push back on this. That's the thing. And again, I preface this by saying I don't fault either of us. One of the things that I do fault is having been a military family. You're automatically kind of a single mother when they deploy, in the sense that you've got to be able to cover all of the bases. And I didn't realize how much I was doing. I'm covering all the bases, running a daycare, going to the, doing stuff at night, doing all day long. I'm going, right? And the power dynamic, that shift that happens back and forth when they leave. Each time that they go away, they've got to give you so much control over things, and then come back and you got to figure out how to adjust so that they can have that head of household space again. But the children are used to hearing you snap for everything, both sides of the discipline, both sides of the nurturing, both sides of the how do you get things done. And then he's a dutiful provider, right? But that's kind of it.
Should we find a different word, JP? Because I
Or
know a different word than like a single mother. Because and now I'm backtracking a little bit because I just sat and thought, okay, because I know there are women who have help, but they like to say they're single. I don't consider myself a single mom. So when we just said that way, you just explained that man, even though he's deployed, he's still providing for his family. So
yes,
is it just should we use the word single mother in those cases,
it's
or should we use
not.
another word? I'm just
But how?
asking.
See, all of the words that they use to describe that situation are disrespectful, right? To both, either the mother or the father. It's
Okay.
just um,
Is it just head of household, maybe? I don't know how to phrase that.
head of household. There you go. Right.
Okay.
So he provided, but he was head of household, but not like parent. Do you understand what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Yes,
And
yes.
but it's about what you witness. It's about what you're able to do or fathom, right, on how you can be a parent in those absent spaces. It's about communication, so many things that just under the weight of it all, it feels as though you're the parent, you're the one who's doing everything. I don't say, you understand what I mean.
Yes, I do.
Like taking nothing away, but you can't communicate with the person who's supposed to be your rock, right? You're supposed to be in this together. When you just do it because of the duty, because of the respect, because of the commitment, because of the children, right? That feels
Mhm.
as though you're solo in it. I'm going to say it would seem to me on both sides, right? And that's why I'm dropping the
Mhm.
link before we start with the father piece, because I want to be able to say this is what it seems to me when I look at it. I don't like the word feel because, as I understand now, yeah, it's not feelings. Um, it's like I because I recently was able to say this so proudly, right? It's not feelings. I emote, just like every other. This
Okay.
vessel happens
Mhm.
to emote, right? I'm girl forward and I emote, but the real truth
Yes.
is, like, I'm not. I don't have that feels kind of thing in me. So yeah, to be able to
Okay.
say that just makes me feel better. But anyway, I'm sorry, I got off topic, by the way. Um, I looking at it though, it was just two dutiful, two people doing their duties alone
Yes.
in the same space,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every now and then, by the way, because once September 11th happened, it was every other year, or sometimes he'd be gone for like 18 months that he was gone. So it's even more hard. It's
Wow.
even more difficult to do your duty, right? And there's so many little nuances that no one knows. Um, and that's what I wanted to talk about when it comes to, like you said, fathers being there.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize now, I was saying this to someone else, that we don't think about the fact that we know that we imprint on our children from the moment that they start to form and hear our heartbeat and whatever. But for the child, they're hearing our voice sort of through water, but the father's voice, right? That's all that they ever have. Not even his heartbeat. That's all that they ever have. Maybe his
Mm-hmm.
voice introduced with some music or some light. So not being present from day one, and if you're
Ooh.
doing it for duty, you're less likely to be there day one, you know? So
That's a good point.
starting from there, talking about the necessity of fathers, like how do you express, can you express your experience? I
Mhm.
think first, if they were two different lived experiences in that way, um, and then how would you ask men to help make sure that they're more involved and more intentional from day one without the hitting at them
So, are you talking about my experience as in myself as a child or my experience as a mother?
as a mother?
Okay. So, I do co-parent. I do co-parent. I want to say this, and I wish that we would have more co-parenting conversations online in these spaces. The reason why I say that is there is if the divorce rate is so high, then we need to have more co-parenting conversations, period. Okay, because that means families are being split. Okay, we split for whatever reason. What does that look like for the children going forward? Right now, when I had my divorce, we were very deliberate. Very, we got together, we wrote out whatever our agreement was. I had family in Georgia, I still do. So my intentions was to move to Georgia. That is in our agreement that was notarized. Okay. What the arrangement is, child support never came up because it did not have to come up. Okay. My son's father lived 30 minutes away from me. There is no reason for me to discuss child support. Okay. He's a very active father. I also, what by that time, JP, I was very aware of how family court works. Family court is anti-black family, period. So because I knew that going in, we both had already agreed no one would make any decisions pertaining to our child but us. So we got together, we wrote the arrangement, we took it, we got it notarized. The day of the hearing, we presented it to the judge. The judge was so pleased. She was just like, y'all just made this day so easy. You know, um, we were talking before we went into the hearing, all of that. Presented the paperwork. That was something that we decided. So when I see the war that happens when breakups happen, I know that it doesn't have to be that way. I know that it doesn't. We had a year where we were mad at each other, more so him than me, but we were mad at each other. Once that year had passed, once that year had passed, we went back to our initial commitment to our son. That's it. That's it. That means that the goals we had for him, whether it be college funds, all of that does not have to change. The goals for him does not change, even though the vision for the family has changed. Do you get what I'm saying? That goal that we had for him doesn't change. So that's what we committed to. We committed to what the vision initially was. It's a little shattered now, JP, right? Because of the divorce. But the vision is still the same. How do we want to raise him? What needs to happen? What money needs to be in place? Those things haven't changed. So I want to start there by saying that shout out to Muansha. They're a clinical couple. They talk about, the husband talks a lot about the fact that we don't know how to break up. That's a part of the problem as well. So there's a lot of hurt that's there. And people use the courts as weapons to beat each other, to fight each other, right? Not realizing that someone is profiting and exploiting your pain at the end of the day, right? And I hate being used. I hate being used.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you speak to that for just a second. I need to step away. I'm listening on the other headphone or the other headset, but I got to run real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I was saying that, and then from there, understanding the importance of a man in a boy's life, a man in their child's life, period, because we talk a lot about like men in boys' lives, but I mentioned that a lot of what we're seeing with women being not able to control their emotions and just going from, they have poor impulse control, going from 0 to 100, slashing tires. Like, this is the effect of a missing father, because men teach us how to kind of like manage our emotions. That's where we get that from, not women. And it doesn't mean that women can't teach you, but that's where we inherit that from. So it's not just important simply because men align as far as genders with boys. Men are important in the lives of their daughters and their sons. So because I already knew that, I went into my divorce knowing, okay, I need to do everything in my power to make sure that I work in unison with this man, so that even the vision that is shattered, we could still see it through. So that was my main goal. And then it went as far as once he remarried, then we became tri-parent. We started tri-parenting. And so now we have to get someone else on board with our agenda. And so I made it my business to befriend his new wife, because at the end of the day, she has her hand in raising my child as well. So it's best that I partner so we could be on the same page. So a lot of these things are deliberate. A lot of it is deliberate. But you have to, JP, I'm going to just say this. You have to value the position and the significance of a man in a child's life. If you don't value that, you would not fight for it. In fact, you're going to fight against it. You have to and my father was incarcerated my entire up until I was like 15 years old. And then at 17, I left the island. So my mom raised us. So you would think that, like people say, you could tell these women didn't have fathers. I didn't have a father, right? And that can go anywhere. I could still be mad about that and be like, F men, they're not important. Or it can go in the direction of, no, I know what that felt like. I know how important it was that my father was there and he wasn't there. So I know that I need to do whatever I have to make sure, whether I'm with the man or not, that my sons have fathers in their life. That means, JP, if I have to put my ego down sometimes, I'm willing to do so, right? There's been many times my ex-husband, he was, he wanted to go to law school. He's very into politics and stuff. So let's just say he likes the back and forth, right? There's been many times that I realized in talking to him, this is something he needs to win for his own ego right now, right? Do I need it? No. So what do? I back down, because at the end of the day, we have to come to a conclusion because we have a son to raise. So sometimes it's not as simple as, well, we break up, he either want to be in his child's life or not. The other part of that is, what are you doing to either encourage that or to work with that? Are you working to work with that person, or are you working to hinder it? And that boils down to how much you value fatherhood, how much you value Black fatherhood, how much you value the presence of a man in a child's life. And for me, it's up there. This is me. I am this important in my child's life, and his father is this important. We are equally important. So that helps a lot. So it's a mindset.
I experienced a father who was kind of a loner, and my children's father was a loner as well. And in some ways, I feel it seems as though it had an effect um, on their experiences with interacting with other, like, not that they don't respect other men, but like
Mhm.
men who aren't like them. For a time, it seemed to be this butting heads kind of thing
Mhm.
until they could communicate. Now, it doesn't seem to be an issue. How do you would you encourage, don't just, take the fellas to don't just take the sons to the barber shop, but can we go some other places? Where are we taking them? What types of people are they interacting with? uh, what do we need fathers to do besides be present, right? What
Mhm.
is being present? What does being present really look like as a father in 2022 compared to a father when you were growing up, I was growing up, maybe even your 10-year-old at this point?
Yeah. Being engaged, being present is being engaged. Being engaged means that initiating things with your children. It really isn't about money, and I know there's a lot of high value man conversation happening, and at the end of the day, children don't give a shit about that. They do not. They do not. Were you there? Were you there? And then what can happen oftentimes with men is that, the way that men are wired, if they're not where they need to be, or they don't have things the way that they would like to have them, they can, I don't want to say, not like feel like they don't need to show up then, right? It's not that. It's like they fall back a lot more because there may not be, let's say a guy loses his job. You know what I mean? And so now it's a thing of, I want to see my son, but I can't even take him out. So there's this embarrassment and this shame that comes with that, because that's just the way men are, right? Men are wired that way, okay? And so it's not that they don't want to see their child. It might just be a thing of like, dang, I can't even take him to McDonald's. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying? Go
so
ahead.
I'm gonna get this pushback. Is it that men are wired that way, or is it that we push at men, right? Well, you can't even afford McDonald's. Why are you gonna come and get it? You understand what I'm saying? Let's be real about it. Now, maybe I'm too pro brother, because at this I see it. Maybe it's because I spent a lot of time. Like I said, this being one of a bunch of sisters,
Yes.
you get tired of hearing sisters' mouths too. And we can come for each other. So we're
Yes.
gonna come for each other. We're certainly gonna come for men,
Yes.
especially if we don't see them as beings. So isn't it more likely than not that we come for them with well, why are you gonna show up if you ain't gonna bring nothing but a paycheck? Or if you're not going to bring a paycheck, all you're going to do is bring your face. Like, are we not kind of responsible for it because of oppressing our lived experiences? And one of the things that I think
I agree.
we're seeing, thank you, that we're seeing, and it's like we said, it's projecting itself on these YouTube streams, is that the women are coming forward and showing their also hurts and ickiness, and both sides. It's their strings are being pulled in that
Mhm.
way, right?
Yes.
If your story even looks a little bit like the title, you're gonna feel that, right?
Yes.
And if you haven't dealt with that energy, my question becomes, how do we encourage ensuring healed energy from the gate when talking about relationships? Right? Because not to point fingers in this moment, but just
Yes.
then you were like, he couldn't. He thinking to himself, I can't even afford to take you to McDonald's. When it's more likely, I really don't want to hear your mama's mouth about not being able to take you to McDonald's.
Well,
So,
and the children will talk, right? Or the
right.
mothers will ask the children, "What did y'all
Mhm.
do? What did y'all have to eat?" "Oh, we ate pizza all weekend." "Where did you
Right.
sleep?" oh, I slept on the mattress on the floor, whatever that is. And so,
Yes.
yes. And so the mother then says, you know, I mean, gosh, oh, this is so much. The mother then says, like you just say, because she has a bed, right? And because she's in a position where she can load up her fridge with groceries, whether she's getting assistance or not, right? But her fridge is loaded with groceries. He might be struggling. And I think in those times, women really need to show a little bit more grace. But I think it also goes back to how much value you place on the father of your child. Okay? Because if I place value on the father of my child, then I give grace when he has tough situations. I speak life when he has tough situations. You'll get through this. Okay, I'll keep him a little longer so you can do some job hunting. Like this thing here that we have when we split, to where now that we split, we can no longer be partners. We got to get out of that. We got to get out of that, because here's the thing. So many of us are going to jobs and we are part of a team that we don't even like. Okay, and we have outcomes that we have to meet, and we show up every day and we punch in, and we're on time, and we're leaving late, and we are dedicated, and we're committed, which lets me know you are very capable, right, of putting that energy into something that matters. Okay, now some people will say, well, my job pays you. Yes, but there are benefits to be reaped, right? If in working with the father of your child reaps the benefit. That is the payout. So yes, I can compare it to the fact that you have this energy when you go into these jobs, working with these people, listening to them, and you can't even stand them, but you show up every single day. Why? Because you have a roof to maintain, you have food, you have to buy food, right? You have to buy clothing, and this job pays you. Well, here's the thing. This child having two parents working together is going to benefit greatly. The data is out there. The statistics they're out there, right? So if for anything else is to raise a whole child. So yes, I mean, I can't stand you because maybe you cheated on me, JP. Maybe I can't stand you because you cheated on me. Maybe I can't stand you because the vision that I had for myself, right? You completely dismantled that when you decide to walk out on your family. And let's be clear, most men are not abandoning their children. Most men are leaving your ass.
Yes.
They're not abandoning their children. They are leaving you. And then somehow you want to lump the children in there into the hurt and that pain that you're feeling. And yes, there's consequences for a split home. The child feels it, of course. But then the mother or the father projects that pain onto that child. Now they've lumped them into their own pain, okay? And so then it becomes a thing of, I don't want to answer your call today, right? Because I'm mad at you. But guess what's that's created? Now you are getting in the way of my communication with my child. Yep. Because the only way to talk to my child is through you. And now you hurt and you haven't picked up the phone in 7 days. Which means I haven't spoken to my child in 7 days. So you see how all of this play out. Again, I think it goes back to the value that you see in fathers, as far as fathers being in their children's lives at the end of the day. So yes, I agree with you, JP. Thanks for pushing back on that. That yes, it could be the mom just projecting. Because here's what I've also learned, and I'm going to let you go, is that there are some women, especially the hurt party, is always trying to show that they're the better parent. Right. So they'll use anything to do the comparison. Oh, he got you sleeping on a mattress? Maybe he's trying to save up for a bed. Oh, what kind of man is he? He's responsible and he's trying to get his money together to buy a bed for his child. Why does it matter? Because children don't care about that. They don't care that they're on a mattress. They do not care, JP. Let's be real.
Listen, even today, I don't care. My knees care, but I don't care. When I was a kid, I was saying this on a gentleman's panel. I remember having veggie mac and cheese and ground beef and thinking that was a thing, right? Like that was the best meal ever. It's the can of veggies, some macaroni noodles, ground beef, and some cheese. Tadar ate like rock stars as far as we were concerned. Even to this day, most of us are still like, man, I'm gonna have me some of that just for old time's sakes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we hope that our children have those same fond memories of the things that we shared, no matter what the cost that was put into it, because it's more about the commitment to time and them and making sure that they had experiences with us.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when I look at these, and this is going to say media spaces, right? In the mainstream media space, it is a tear down of our boys, our men, right? Simultaneously using their names to push the blackness narrative,
Oh yeah.
but black girl magic, right? Okay. And
Yes.
then you've got social media, which, well, YouTube specifically, which seems to be the opposite. There's no center. How, and I remember a time when they were pushing this thing about teaching boys how not to um, great women or
Mm-hmm.
girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking to myself, well, who's going to teach the girls not to grape the boys?
That's something that even I noticed that even in these spaces, a lot of women don't want to talk about how many of our women are violating our little boys, babysitting them and pretty much raping them. When you talk to a lot of boys, when they tell you, how they lost their virginity, it's very interesting. You're talking about 12 and a 25-year-old, and like, and that's something that we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about that a lot of abuses are happening at the hands of women. We don't want to talk about that because and it may not even be because there's not just one form of abuse,
Right.
right? And so I know the focus ends up being sexual abuse so many times, but I always tell people that there is some sort of connection. Children that run away from home don't just run away from home because they feel like running away from home. Oftentimes, that is not the case. Okay. Um, I'm not talking about staying out and you're too scared to come back home. I'm talking about literally running away. Okay. And hiding out. That just doesn't happen. But a lot of abuses, the name calling, things that a lot of us right now, JP, are trying to undo as
Mhm.
adults came from women.
Yeah.
A lot of those wounds came from our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunts. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough in these spaces because there's a narrative that we're trying to push, which is the black man is the devil. That's
A
it.
strong one, too.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You got a super masculine one at that. It's
Yes.
this thing, but okay.
So,
Um,
and if you're pushing a narrative, JP, you can't have a balanced conversation. And a
exactly.
part of what's driving a lot of our narratives, our woman narratives in these spaces, is pain. It doesn't matter if they're single or married. Pain is pain. You could enter into a new relationship with the pain from the last one that
Yeah.
you never got past. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of it, what you're seeing, is pain. A lot of it is like impulse. It's like a reflex. You hear something in this space and it's like, oh no, I can't let that pass. I have to defend women. I have to defend the sisters. And the reality is this: we're so lazy. We're so lazy. We're no longer interested in getting to the bottom of why. No
Yeah.
one wants to discuss the why because it's just easier to discuss the what and stay on the surface and attack each other.
Yeah.
But when we get to the why, that's where the healing really begins.
I'm in agreement with you. I want to ask a question, but I want to play. Listen, when the other day you said you love this man, and I was like, man, do I nerd out to this dude? To the to the point where it might be a problem in my life. So I'm going to play this really quick,
Okay.
just because I want people to kind of understand that. And I want to talk about this before I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I first understood it when it came to my children's father in that way, when he told me about um, his age when he lost his virginity and to whom. I was like, are you kidding me? That's assault. And I don't think that he thought of it. Like I know he didn't think of it that way because we had
Yeah.
to have a conversation about it. So I'm like, as a young girl, those are the things that I was told to look out for,
Mm-hmm.
right? So why aren't we teaching our fellas these things? And I, I'm going to play this and then I'm going to put the question out there. So let me get this share screen going here. Uh, uh, uh. So when I say I full on nerd out, like this is my favorite, probably my favorite content creator. Now I have to admit that I listen to him on 1.25
Mm-hmm.
because while my favorite content creator, he does speak a little slow, like you know. But I
Yes.
love Dr. Tia San Johnson. But he does have
Yes.
this video here about our boys. I want to just play the beginning, guys. I put the playlist link in the chat to the video that I was gonna do tonight, but I want to just do this one. He starts over. Can you see? Okay, let me make
Yes.
it. Just do this.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist News for the day. Thought I'd get in quick hit tonight and share a piece that I ran across a little while ago. I hope everybody's well. Shout out to I'm Listening, Jay Cleveland, what's up? Hybrid Ninja, good to have y'all in here. Um, yeah, like I said, this actually, let's see, what's up, Ishmael? Ragnar, what's up? Yeah, this is a piece I want to share with you actually comes off the Washington Post. And it's written by Andrew Yang, who ran for mayor a while back in New York, Democrat turned independent. But he shares an interesting piece. Now, he doesn't deal with race in the piece. And it's interesting to kind of reflect on it from that vantage point. But I thought I'd just share it with you real quick. I thought it gave us some pretty good food for thought. Um, so here we go. Uh, and I should say, like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the channel if you will. It would be much appreciated. Um, and get out of YouTube's shadow ban. So help me do so if you would. Arta Ibmore, what's up, man? Uh, powerful stream earlier today. Highly contentious, but you handled it. So shout out to you, man. Anyway, this piece, as you can see, is entitled "Opinion." The data are clear. The boys are not all right. Okay. Um, this was written February 8th of this year. It says Yang is founder of the Forward Party and a former candidate for New York mayor and U.S. president. What's up, Kiel? What's going on? Vondi, what's up? So anyway, here it goes. Here's one of the biggest problems facing America. Boys and men across all regions and ethnic groups have been failing, both absolutely and relatively. Yeah. For years. This is catastrophic for our country. The data are clear. Boys are more than twice as likely as girls to be diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, are 5 times as likely to spend time in juvenile detention and are less likely to finish high school. Unfortunately, it doesn't get better when boys become adults. Men now make up only 40.5% of college students. Male community college enrollment declined by 14.7% in 2020 alone, compared with 6.8% for women. Median wages for men have declined since 1990 in real terms. Roughly 1/3 of men are either unemployed or out of the workforce. More U.S. men ages 18 to 34 are now living with their parents than with romantic partners. Now, this is definitely something I've been seeing with students over the years. And truthfully, I'm seeing this happen to some extent at younger and younger ages. Young men in particular, just pulling out, stepping back. Uh,
Okay, so considering the last things that we talked about, right? Not discussing their own, we'll say, assaults, and being aware. How do we, one, encourage our men to be more forthcoming, if not with us, if with other men, and two, certainly with their children, and the what message do we encourage going forward?
Okay, so I'm not clear. I'm not clear on the is this two-part question? Can you ask it again?
Okay,
Okay.
so one, how do we encourage? It might be a little bit more than that. Hey, Mrs. C said, she said, I'm going to drop the link. How do we encourage our fellas to be open about their lived experience? And in doing so, what do we need them to um, express as solutions moving forward? Or what do we need to know from them to get solutions moving forward?
Hmm. Okay, I'm writing it down. All right. So the first part, how to encourage them to be open about their lived experiences. Huh. Hmm. I think that when we stop weaponizing the information in the heat of moments, or not in heat of moments, but when things are heated, when we get upset, once you do that, you lose, there's some trust that's lost there. Um, but to be honest with you, JP, I really think that Black women and men, well, since we're talking about the men right now, I think we really need to rehumanize our men in our own psyche. It starts there. A lot of how we speak of, a lot of how we engage with, a lot of how we treat Black men has a lot to do with how we perceive Black men. And oftentimes, when you really peel it back, you realize that there's a dehumanization that has happened. Now, there are many factors that have contributed to that. And I don't know that we need to get into all of it, but recognizing when you are treating, okay, so I'll give you an example. When we see men and women engage in these spaces, for example, okay, a woman can have free range to curse. I mean, call men out their names, go off, talk reckless, all of that. And she's a woman. But it's blatant disrespect. It is blatant disrespect, and it has nothing to do with gender. Okay? Just respect them as human beings. Now, if a man responds in the same manner, he is demonized right away. Look at how you're talking to a woman. You can't talk to a woman that way. What kind of man are you? Now, his manhood is in question, but her womanhood never comes into question when there's obvious display of blatant disrespect. That is dehumanizing, whether we realize it or not. Because what you're saying is she is allowed to have access, and this is socialization as well. She is allowed to have full access, right? To have access to the full spectrum of her emotions. That is absolutely okay. In fact, we applaud that. Okay? We incentivize it even. But he is not. And that starts very young. So the dehumanization process of boys and men starts very young because it is a part of the socialization process. A lot of how society treats us as Black people, whether it's us collectively or us individually as Black men, Black women, we have internalized it tremendously. And every chance we get, we project those things onto each other. And it becomes an all out war because no one is approaching the other one as a human being. They're approaching them as you are a Black man. And there's certain treatments that come along with that. You are a Black woman, and there are certain treatments that come along with that based on what society has taught us, whether it's through media, whether it's through books, whether it's through lack of history, whatever that is. We have internalized that, and that is how we show up in these spaces and interact with each other. So that's just one example of the dehumanization. We have to rehumanize our men in our psyche immediately. Otherwise, JP, what's his name? I'm reading Dr. Kunjufu, Kwanzaa Kunjufu,
Uh-huh.
and he talks about the fact that you cannot teach a child that you do not love.
Right.
You cannot teach a child that you do not understand. So all of these things, as far as our young boys, you talk about we don't like our children, and that's a really interesting statement, by the way. I want you to expound on that, because some people would take offense to that.
That you don't like your that people don't like their children.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all,
Sorry, I digress a little bit.
I'll do that, and I got the question start, and I want to go back to what Dr. Johnson started with, why I wanted to choose this video specifically in this case. Excuse me.
Yes.
When my children's father and I met, we had things in common, and we enjoyed those things together, right? And then as time came along, we had a child and more children, and we did those things together with our children, right? An example would be video games. I do like my children, but I'm just saying this is the story. So I enjoyed the same things that they enjoyed the majority of the time that we were together, right? And when I didn't, I at least sought out why they were interested in those things and encouraged them to seek those, to go down those paths and create their own journey. But with the video gaming, man, like I'm one of those people, like, okay, well, it's a Batman video game. Batman gonna be there tomorrow, and he's still gonna be dark and angry tomorrow. I can wait. Fellas don't have that. They like, we have to now slay the whole game today. Like, it's just yeah. So imagine living with 4 fellas who do that, right? On the one hand, you're like, man, I can't stand y'all right now. I just wanted to be able to just play at my leisure. That's what a video game is supposed to be for. But what I realize is parents don't even bother today to be interested in the video game or to be interested in the music, the anime or the music, right? And they insult it outright. I insulted the playing the game before I could enjoy it. But I was like, go ahead and get your game on. Could you just play that crappy Minecraft that I don't like that much? You know what I mean? So
do you know it's important for them that we at least try to understand it? I see that in my 10-year-old. Because when I'm like, I'll be at the table doing something and he's watching his Minecraft and I can see it, and he'll come and say, so you like it? So you like it? Like, it's important that we at least, try to have an understanding of why they're into what they're into.
Honey,
boys, at least.
When they got to the meme stages, I don't know if yours are at the hand showing you the meme stages yet. Oh, you just be like, oh, why is that in my face right now? So I just learned to combat it with my own, silly little things. But I just feel as though I don't feel. It seems as though parents. I have to work the words out of my system now, but parents don't have that connection, that imprint isn't there that we talked about in the womb, that we talked about hearing your father's voice, being gone from each other so long. One of the things that I realized is the reason why I didn't have that imprinting on me is because I was in the daycare system by the time that I was 3 months old. I was moving between my parents' house, my grandparents' house, and my godparents' house on a weekly basis, right? And so in that way, I understood what parenting authority was and what the roles were, but not my place in a family, right? Because you got god sisters, you got siblings, and then you've got the folks in the daycare who start to talk, all the things that are confusing to children in a way.
Yeah.
So that part I understand and I get it. And I feel it seems as though that thing is keeping parents and children from connecting. And it has been more and more for generations since we got out of segregation, right? Because I am the first, technically, hi, Mr. Best in the World. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm kind of the first, or the first generation out of segregation, right? And then after that, we hit the 80s and trickle down economics, and everybody's faking it till they make it and whatnot. And so there's more concern to go to work than there is to be in the family. And that's when
Yes.
the great divide really starts. Um, so how do we mend that? Welcome to the panel, Mr. Best in the World. How do we get our men, if there's that much hurt and that much divide between mother and father and child and generation, what's the through line? How do
Is
we
that for,
mend it?
is
It's
that
for
for
you
either one?
first,
Oh,
Hanifa, and then Mr. Best in the World. Mr. Best in the World, I would like I don't know how long, I know sort of how long you've been here, but I would like for you to address it, and then we'll get into Wanda's questions and what I was playing before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Definitely welcome.
Hey, Hanifa, you go first.
oh, okay. um. So, oh boy, where can I start? So okay. So the times we're living in, like everything is metaverse, right? Um. So the ability or the need to connect how we used to once upon a time. For example, my children are not growing up. My sons are not growing up the way I grew up. We were outside every day playing with the children in the neighborhood. Okay. Um, some of us now we move to neighborhoods and we barely know our neighbors. People are afraid of their children being kidnapped. Pedophile alert. Like there's so much going on. The times have changed so much that it's almost like we have to be a little bit more deliberate in connecting with each other. No, it's not like we actually do have to be a little bit more deliberate in connecting with each other. So if that means that parents having a time cut out in the day, it could be dinner. It could be dinner where everyone sits at the table. There's no phone, there's no iPad, there's no electronic, and check in with each other, talk with each other, connect. Um, Maybe for me, what I started doing is because I had to do a schedule uh with my children. So what I started doing is at 5 o'clock, right before dinner, we would have family game time. So they could pick whatever game, Uno, Connect Four, not Monopoly, because Monopoly just takes too damn long. But like any low game that they want to play, we'll play together, and then I would start dinner at 6 o'clock. So I started that schedule because of my 10-year-old son, because now he's being homeschooled. So I had to kind of implement a schedule immediately. But I think that considering the times that we're living in, children are addicted to social media because everywhere that they go, it's there. They have it there on their phone, they have it on their person. The social media is with them everywhere that they go. So I think if you're in a family unit, which I think everything begins there, which is the epicenter, that the nuclear family or just the family environment, it has to start there. It has to be a deliberate effort made to connect every single day in some way. You can't have parents over here on their phone and on their electronic devices and children over there, and no one knows what's going on. There is no connections. And then the other thing too, you mentioned something about parents just judging what their children are doing and not making the effort to be informed about what their children are doing. I used to do a training for foster parents, right? And one of the things that I used to do is go online and print out lyrics to songs, and I would bring it in, and I would have the parents read it out. And I'm talking about the songs that might be popular at that time, that I know all the teenagers probably know. And so parents will read it out, and some of them will have a difficult time reading out the lyrics, right? And they will be like, well, That's his outlet. I just kind of let him listen to whatever. And I'm like, but are you aware of what he's listening to or she's listening to? So then we will have a conversation around the lyrics, around the subconscious mind, how that works, and so forth, that things enter in without your consent oftentimes. That's what programming is about. If you're being programmed, it doesn't work if you're aware that you're being programmed. That's just not how it works. So having a conversation around that and allowing them to leave saying, hey, because a lot of them were Christians, so they would stay away from certain music and certain lyrics. They didn't want to know about it. They didn't want to touch it. But having them leave the training, like, I need to be a little bit more informed and involved as far as what my children are interested in. What are they watching? What are they listening to? And not being afraid and finding ways to connect with them. Listen, man, parenting is about creativity oftentimes. Your child hits certain stages. You have to become a little bit more creative than you was a year before. That's just the reality of it. You can't parent your 10-year-old the way you parented them at 5 because their body's going through changes. They're growing. Their mind is changing. They're evolving. You have to evolve with them. You have to evolve with them. There is no parenting is not this what do you call it, JP? It's not set in concrete. I like to say it's like this living thing. It's constantly evolving and constantly changing. And it's changing with your level of consciousness. And it's also changing with that child's level of consciousnness. So parenting is not this easy. Just do as I say, not as I do. That's archaic. That doesn't apply now. It doesn't work. So it requires, I'm going to say, I'm just going to be honest. It requires a little bit more effort now. Why? Because there are other things now that have more access to your child's mind than you can even ever imagine. So it requires us to actually be fully engaged and be present and not be afraid to engage in those uncomfortable conversations. What do you like about these lyrics? What do you think about them? You'll be surprised how some of these teenagers think. Yeah. It's not as big of a deal to them as it is to you, but you have to have the conversation. So making time, deliberate, whether it's the weekend, we go to the park, we walk, we have a picnic, we have dinner together as a family, we have game night, whatever that is, finding ways to connect with your child because you can't avoid the metaverse. It's there. It's here. They're involved in it. So
we're the ones late to the party. Go ahead, Mr. Bethel.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, nephew. How's your spirit?
Hey, family. Hey.
Oh, you sound not okay. Well, go ahead. I'm gonna let you speak.
No, I'm good. I'm relaxed. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
It's my day off. I'm relaxing. Well, somewhat my day off. I got an interview in about an hour. But yeah, outside of that, where do we start? How do we make things better? Okay. I think it does start with family, but I think it's also I think it's also at some point we gotta kind of, well, okay, let's start with the children, right? I think yes, we do need more of, like Sister Nifa was saying, shout out to her. Good to see you, sister. What she was saying, like, it starts with what happens at home, right? It starts with what's influencing that child, or what is being allowed to be thrust upon that child. And we got to remember that a child is just a child. Like, they're not an adult, so they're not going to process things the way an adult processes, and neither should they. You know what I mean? I think sometimes adults need to see that. The kids, they're just trying to have a level of understanding. They're not trying to be confrontational or even disrespectful. They just really want to understand, like, why things are the way they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think sometimes as adults, sometimes we can kind of get sometimes on our high horse and just think, oh, these kids are this way, or all these kids are that way, or they just all rude. Nah, they really trying to just have a level of understanding. Like, they don't really know what is going on. Like, they really asking, like, okay, adult, in the house or around me, why are things this way? You know what I'm saying? And I think we got to be open to those conversations, because guess what? If we're not going to have those conversations, somebody else going to have them conversations with them, and they're going to put their information on them. And maybe the information they put on them is not the information you want them kids to receive. And that's real talk, like, for real. So either you gonna do it or they gonna do it. And if they do it, they gonna do whatever they want to do. You know what I'm saying? That's just the God honest truth. So, you know what I mean? Like, Oh, good.
how
I'm
you
sorry.
well, you're fine. It's just how you do it matters, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
all you're ever doing is telling a child what they can't do, they're either going to seek out
Mm.
doing those things because that's all they know, or they're going to be stuck in the space of not doing because they can't do. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't speak that positivity into them. We don't, speak forwardly to them about what they can do. One of the things that I also considered is that because children are in broken homes, they don't hear "we love you" very
Mm.
often. They don't hear "we's," right? They hear "I" or "you's." They don't hear a collective communication being spoken at all. So it's very difficult then to go out into the world and seek a collective if you don't hear collective speak. And so Wanda Washington asked a couple of questions that I want to get, but I want to preface this once again. The video that I shared from Dr. Tia San Johnson is him discussing an article from Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang said
Mm.
specifically that it was all men across all ethnic groups that were failing. So even though Dr. Johnson then went on to frame it as a black thing, it's because it's happening to us disproportionately. It
Yep.
is an all men thing. So now, understanding that, I want us to answer Wanda Washington's first question, which is we've
Honestly,
heard. Yeah, go ahead.
may I say one thing real quick
Uh,
before we go in a different direction? I just want to say too, like, I think also we got to start like allowing. And I'm just speaking from a black, male who used to be a black child, black male child perspective. We got to allow us to have um you got to allow us to have emotional vulnerability without being put down and called weak. And I think that happened to me a lot as a kid. It was like, yo, stop being weak. Yo, you being a man. Like, you need to be a man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stop crying. Like, get up. You know what I mean? So I think that it didn't show me that I was able to process my emotions. All it basically made me is just it made me more aggressive. You know what I mean? It made me more assertive. And that didn't help because now as an adult, I really struggled and at times still do struggle with really being like, yo, okay, this is how I feel, this is where I'm at, and letting it be just that. You know what I mean? Now it's a struggle for me at times. You know what I mean? Because it's like I was told that expressing emotions is a weakness, and if you're being told that by your adults, by the people that you look up to and that you love, you know what I mean, that affects you as a child. You know, because you feel like, okay, I can't express myself. You know what I mean? If I express myself, then I am weak.
yeah.
So it
I'm
didn't teach me emotional intelligence. So yeah.
Definitely. I'm in agreement with you there. One of the things that amazed me about the generation, especially these Zoomers, they have emotional intellect that is something to be applauded on the regular basis. I've met teenagers who have talk their friends down from situations, if you understand what I'm saying. Um, the way that the Parkland students, when the light was shown on them because of the school shooting there, they had the compassion to turn around and say, don't just look at us, look at all of those little black kids over there that you never, ever, ever talk about. Yes, we're going through this pain right now, but we understand that there are people who live this pain more often than we do, and no one is
Mm,
saying or doing anything. And when I put it in the description to this, our youth are looking at us, and more often than not, when I show them these things, uh, when they're like, "How old are these people? Are they still in high school? I was just in high school, and this looks a lot like that." And here we are saying that
mm,
we're the ones who are supposed to be elders and push the conversation forward and lead with solutions. And so I'm just like, boy, do we have to like. And so that's why it says that they're slow up on the youth before they give up on you, because I'm witnessing people who are willing to put their parents in homes. Like, it ain't even let me ask my so and so how they feel about it. No, she going in a home. As soon as they tell her, they're gonna have to amputate a toe, she out. She got gout. What house can I put her in that's not mine? Why don't the children want to be around either parent. That's it. It's that thing. But I believe that when answering Juana's question and keeping in mind that we're talking about all men, not just black men, it just happens to be the narrative here. She asked, we've heard these statistics. What are the reasons for this assessment of boys and men? In your opinion, and we'll start with Mr. Best, being the gentleman on the panel. And guys, the link is in the chat. Please feel free to join the conversation. And also, while you're there, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know all the jazz. Send it to your people so we can keep this conversation going. But having said that, what do you think is the reason for this assessment of boys and men?
I
And
think that I think
well, go
that
ahead.
the reason for the assessment is the fact that, you know what I mean, within the generation that was born in the 80s and 90s, a lot of us didn't have fathers. Like the fathers wasn't in the home. You know what I mean? I think now in our generation, the fathers are starting to be in the home because we see where that led us, and we don't want to go down that path. We don't want that path for our kids or our nephews or our little cousins or whatever. We want them to be better. You know what I'm saying? Our little brothers or whatever. So I think that that's the reason why, what I mean, things are the way that they are. You know what I'm saying? Like we want things better for them, but the reason why we in this condition is because our fathers, wasn't really there for us. So we like, okay, you know what I mean? We're trying to maintain order in our lives, but also give order in other lives, and that's a hard task to do. You know what I mean? Because you know, a lot of times we still trying to figure things out. You know what I mean? We still got a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma, a lot of different things that we dealing with. You know what I mean? And and how do you cope with all that? How do you deal with all that? How do you deal with not feeling like a man? How do you deal with not understanding the fundamentals of being a man? You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times that's something that's not taught. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, okay, you just gotta deal with it, but it's like it ain't that simple. You know what I mean? And then you got society telling us that, we can't really healthfully express our emotions without looking weak. So it's like, all right, well if that's the case, then I'm gonna just do what works best for me. You know what I mean? And some of the things that we doing are not healthy. Granted, you know what I mean. I'll definitely attain to that. We don't always make the best decisions. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we still trying to figure a lot of things out ourselves. You know what I mean? We don't mean no offense to nobody. We're not trying to like hurt nobody or come at people a certain way. It's just that the fact that hell, we trying to figure out life too. You know what I mean? Like so I think that's why things are the way that they are. You know what I mean? And most men, who are who are from, a different generation or who are from my generation, you know what I'm saying? That's what we feel. That's what we think. You know what I mean? We're not trying to, come at women or, trying to do things a certain way. It's just the fact that, that's all we know. That's really all we know. And so I think that's why things are the way that they are. So yeah.
Thank you. Hanifa, go ahead and then we'll go to the next one. Did you answer already and I forgot?
No, no, no. I think what are we answering? Joanna's question?
Yes. I'll
Can
go
you
back. Hold
bring
on
it?
just a second.
Yeah, because I was writing down.
Here it is.
Oh, yes. What are the reasons for this assessment of boys and men? I just wrote down that, and I hate to use this word because I feel like it's a very feminist word, but it's whatever. I'm going to use it because I think we're all going to know what I'm talking about when I say it. I just wrote down that patriarchy is harmful to both men and women. The effects of the harm just shows up different in us. That's all it is. It's just as harmful to men because when you are socialized, whether it's through your parenting, it's not just socialization doesn't just happen through parenting. It happens through from the society that we live in. There are certain expectations that are placed on boys at a very young age, right? And so when you are required to show up a certain way, like relationships was just talking and saying that not having that space to fully express or to be vulnerable and so forth. That's not just your home. That's also the society that we live in that doesn't allow space for men to do that. You hear men say that all the time. We can't afford to do that. We don't have that luxury
hmm
to sit and heal. We are
Yep.
required to do, right? And as unhealthy as that is, it doesn't change the fact that it is. And I think that is connected to to societal norms as well. You know what I mean? So I think the damage it's done to both men and women in the male dominated society, but the harm of it shows up different in each one of us. So yeah, I mean, the expectations that we place on girls versus boys, men versus women. It's a whole lot of things that contribute to that outside of the family home. So, like I said, if JPU and I talked earlier in the program about when you go into parenting with a certain level of consciousness, being aware that these things are so in the society, then you have to create a home environment that is counter to that, so that your children can develop certain things before they go out into the world. Do you get what I'm saying? But a lot of us are parenting are fully affected by the societal norms, by whatever programming and so forth, because we are not conscious parents. That's the word I'm looking for. We're not conscious. So even though we know that these things are problematic in the society, we are still allowing it to impact how we engage our boys and our girls, particularly our boys, since that's what we're talking about. So it actually is a deliberate effort to where you say, yes, that is society, but I do not have to allow that in my home. And I can find a way to allow my home to be a safe space for my sons to, your word, JP, emote, to peacefully emote without judgment, but also still teach them what society expectations are and how to navigate that, how to stand firm in their manhood, right? And to know that you can cry and you can express and emote and still be a man. That teaching happens in my home. So it starts there for me. But yes, it's societal expectations, and it's because the damage of a male dominated society does not just do harm to women, it also does harm to men.
Okay. I appreciate both of you all's answers. I'm going to answer at the end. The second question from Juana was, do you think men are capable of healing themselves and finding their own solutions? Yeah, we'll let Hanifa go ahead, and then I'm going to drop the link, guys. I'll just say this. If you guys want, please join the panel, join the conversation. Make sure that you, again, share with your people. Just we want to keep this going and have real conversations about what's going on in Black parenting. It's not grown-ups can do what they want to. Someone has to start talking about how to do better by our children, and not from a point of chasing the bag on YouTube. So, Hanifa, go ahead, and then Mr. Best, if you want to answer the question, is again, do you think men are capable of healing themselves and finding their own solutions? And then Mr. Best, I'll go after you.
Yes, I think so. I think that very balanced men are well capable of doing so. But let's be real. Most of our men are not balanced. Most of our men lean heavily and probably entirely on their masculine side. That's it. Healing, when you talk about healing, there's a level of softness that the feminine provides that our men are too afraid to even tap into. Right? So, yes, are they capable? Yes, of course. If they are balanced, if they are not afraid to tap into certain areas of, of their being, the area that says I'm going to cry today because I'm hurt, or I'm going to express that emotion. But a lot of our men, like relationships said, is they're not raised that way. They don't even know where to start. In fact, to even feel that way is a very uncomfortable feeling. And so they go to the default. The default becomes anger and rage. And a lot of times what we are interpreting as anger and rage in our men is sadness. It's sadness. So yes, if they have balance, and that again, that has to be instilled and cultivated and protected, right? That has to start from young. If they have that balance, of course they can. In fact, I really prefer men to work with other men as far as healing. But there's a softness and a level of nurturing that the feminine also provides, right? I'm not saying that we should coddle men, but I think that we have a part to play in the healing of our men and vice versa. That's just my take on that.
Go ahead, Nick.
Woo, man, Sister Anifa said a lot there. All right. Okay. Man, you're trying to get brothers to cry and all of them to show, man. I ain't doing this,
What?
man. Man, Chef made me do this the other like about a month ago, man. I ain't doing this with y'all, man.
It's
I ain't doing.
love
I'm
up
joking.
in here, nephew.
I know. I'm messing with you, Auntie. You know I'm messing with you. Now listen, can we self heal? Yes, but it is a journey. Okay, it is a journey, and I don't know. I can't tell you how long that journey takes. Right? I can just tell you that it is a process, and I know that because I've had to heal myself from a lot of things. And the thing is, even when you heal, the scars are still there, so you still got to deal with the ramifications of what was done and what you feel. I think that in that, with the healing thing, you still, because the scars are still there, there's gonna be moments where you're gonna think about what happened. You're gonna think about why that parent wasn't there. You're gonna think about why you was abused. You're gonna think about why weren't you accepted or why weren't you able to be, loved because, people were trying to push you in a certain direction or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like these things are the different traumas, the different things that men go through. You're gonna think about those things. It's gonna be on your mind. It's gonna be on your heart. It's gonna be in your emotions and your mental and in your spirit. It's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So it's not going to just scoop and vanish and go away. I think people just think that, oh, okay, if somebody's healed, like those things just go away. They don't never go away. It's always gonna be a part of your makeup. The thing is that you just learn how to live with it. You know what I mean? You learn how to live with it. You learn how to process through it and talk through it. You know what I mean? And even in that, you still are gonna have days when you are not doing well. Okay, where things are just not going well for you, and you do not want to be around anybody. You don't want to see nobody. You don't want to talk to nobody. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to deal with people. Period. You know what I'm saying? But so it's just, or you don't want to deal with yourself and deal with the things that you're feeling at that moment. So it's a process, and I think that um, when it comes to women understanding that, because I'm just gonna speak to mostly women understanding, because men we understand what we go through a lot of times. Most of us, not all of us, but for the women, understand that when things happen with us men, you know what I'm saying, or you're like, man, why he got to talk to so many girls, or why he don't want to talk to why he don't want to talk to me about his emotions, or why is he running to this? Why is he running to alcohol? Why is he running to this or that? You know what I mean? A lot of times, like Sister Nifa was saying, he's just afraid. He's just scared, yo. He's scared because he ain't never seen nobody's ever loved him ever. He's never been told I love you from a genuine place. Everybody has just tried to make him be a leader or make him be something, or made him stroll on and push on because he's supposed to be a man and he's supposed to just be Superman all the time, 24/7. And heck, even God took a rest after He created the world. You know what I mean? Like it's like, what do you think I'm supposed to do? I'm only a mere man. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, come on. It's like it's. I think sometimes women, not all women, but sometimes women they don't see that men just sometimes we need love too. We need healing too. We need a hug too. We want to cuddle too. Sometimes you know what I'm saying. Like it's not always about us just getting our thing off. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it is, but it's not always about that. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to us expressing our emotions, our thoughts, and everything else. Like we genuinely need somebody to be there. Just like y'all need somebody to be there. We not that different. It's just the fact that we process things differently, and through our testosterone just makes us logical on a different level. You know what I mean? We have different forms of logic. Women have their form of logic and the way they do things, and we have our form of logic. You know what I mean? The way we process things. Neither one is better than the other because both has is strengths and weaknesses. All right, our weaknesses is our pride. We are very prideful. Okay, you know what I mean. We want to be. That's what the machismo and the macho ness and I got to be a man and puffing out your chest and being trying to be more than what you are is about. You know what I mean. With women, it's the emotions, right? Y'all emotions. You know what I'm saying. Sometimes get the best of y'all, and y'all just sometimes feel like things are a certain way. You ever like there's times where what I mean, if I have a disagreement with a woman in my family, different one in my family, they're like, well, that's not what I'm like, that's not what I meant. It's like, well, that's not how it made me feel. I'm like, what are you talking? But I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like a man his pride. A woman is guarded, with her emotions. A man guards with his pride. You know what I'm saying? And we just gotta have that understanding of each other. And once we do that, we can have conversations and we can understand each other a lot better. But yeah, we both require love and respect, most definitely. Not it's not
I'm
even a
gonna
question.
just. I appreciate both of y'all being up here, because from what I understand now for sure is it's universal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the ebb and flow, male and female, the same as the moon and sun rise and set. It's universal. That's why I said over here, this system emotes. It's just to answer Wanda Washington's question, though, um, we are both raising these men and the women that they will come to know in the community. So that is why Black women need to know and speak on Black men's issues in some regard. We don't need to be out front saying how they should move, but we do need to be in the space because right now we are the ones who are always and pretty much have always been the ones there present. Not to say that our men don't want to be present. The reality is that this is what's happening. So if the ones raising them can't learn from the gentlemen who have experienced harsher interactions than these, what are we supposed to do? I'm so over that part. Like, everyone should be able to speak to one another about how we move going forward for our children. What was your experience? What are men's experiences? How are men and women's experiences similar? What are our children witnessing? Because when they pop out the womb, unbeknownst to you, they don't know that they're a boy or a girl. Have you ever considered that thought? That when you
Mm.
slide up out your parent can see that you've got a vagina or not, but you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not until
Mm-hmm.
somebody tells you that your vagina is more special than that dude's penis.
Mm.
So let's just be more. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to clarify.
No, Auntie, it's cool. Let me touch on this too for a second. I think also, we y'all do need to tell us how to move sometime. You know what I mean? Because there's sometimes where even my own father, there's things he can't see that my mother could see. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a natural fact. Like, and my dad, he's been in this world almost 60 years, but there's just certain things he just cannot see as a man, and he's not going to see. You know what I'm saying? Because he don't have that in him. He's not a woman. You know what I mean? So sometimes I need my mom to be like, "Yo, what's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? What's going on?" And
I
she's able to
received
see
that.
things, and I'm not. And my dad, he just laughing and joking because he thinking everything cool. You know what I mean? He's not able to see it, but she could see it. And I'm like, man, I need to speak to her more than I need to speak to him at times. You know what I'm saying? Because she's able to connect and give me the feminine energy at that moment that I'm not gonna get from my dad. He ain't giving me that energy. Ain't nothing feminine about him. You know what I mean? It's all pride. You know what I mean? Like, he'll say I love you or I care about you, but you know what I mean. Rather than that, it's like, oh, okay, what's going on? You all right? You good? Okay, cool. You know what I mean? That's it. Like, it ain't gonna be nothing more than that. And and that's his role as a man at times. You know what I mean? He's gonna provide that masculinity, and at times that's needed. But at times it's like, nah, I need that feminine energy. I need moms to talk to me. You know what I mean? So he understands. He don't get offended. You know. So.
I have just something to add to that point as well, JP, and to what relationship he said exactly what I was going to say. When if we're honest about how men function, if we are honest about that and how men are wired, then we will understand the role and the importance of the role we play in men's lives, because we understand how they function. Men have blind spots that they have blind spots. We have blind spots. There are situations we could enter into that there are certain details that your guy might miss, right? And then there are certain things that you may not be paying attention to because you're too busy focused on the minor details, right? So you're more focused on the micro, and he's looking at the macro. Both are necessary, because there are going to be details in the situation of the problem that he can't see, but you functioning in your role as a woman, you are going to be able to pick up on that. Why do you think we multitask the way we do as women? Men, I tell people all the time, men, it's not that they're they're worse parents than women. They're just different parents than women, because men show up differently, because men are wired differently. So it's not a thing of coddling, because there's a conversation happening. There's this narrative that's being pushed. And if we're not careful, we are actually perpetuating this idea that we don't need to help each other. And I can't, in good conscience, push that narrative, because here's the reality. And I know some women may not like this. We birth men, right? And we also harm men. We birth them and we harm them as well. So when we talk about healing, if you have contributed to that, to harming our men, I'm talking about when they were boys and then they grew up to be men, then damn right, you should be involved in that healing process. You don't get to jump ship and say, well, men can heal themselves. Not if you've contributed to the harm as well. So yes, because it's not just men out here doing damage. Women are doing damage as well. So how do we collectively come together and have these honest conversations? I need mothers that have grown out of their toxicity to be able to acknowledge that they were toxic parents, and share that with the young women that are coming behind them. These young mothers, 19, 18, 20 years old. But no, right? Because you've been reformed and you're ashamed of that. And the reason why you're ashamed of it is because it's a wound that you just covered. You didn't allow it to heal. So what you've done is you've covered it, whether it's with your religion, whether it's with your busyness, your career, your degrees, whatever that is, you've covered it. So you don't want to engage in those conversations, because now it means you have to go and rip that covering off of that wound. And it means that you now have to face your own wound, because maybe you wasn't there for your children the way that you needed to be. And that's okay, because if they're grown, you can go back and you can still restore and you can reconcile some things. You can make a commitment to be there for your grandchildren, because maybe you missed the train for your children. You can say, I'm going to mentor young girls so that they don't walk in the same path I did. But the issue that we're having out here is what you talked about earlier. I mentioned there's a sister, Ches, on Facebook. Sometimes I comment on her low community page, and I was telling her, the matriarch is infallible in our community because of the very high single parent female led homes. So it's more of a thing of you don't bite the hand that feeds you, even if it abused you. That's what's happening. So no one wants to have the conversation about these toxic mothers, because it's just not politically correct to do so. Because they are the ones, because this is how we're looking at it. At least she was there. Yeah, she knocked my tooth out. Yeah, she blocked my eye up. Yeah, she busted my nose, but she was there. So I'm not touching that, right? I'm willing to look past the abuse and point the finger of my so-called, or what perceived to be my absent father. And some men aren't even finding out the story about that until they become adult men, that their mothers was the problem. So there's a conversation to be had that's not being had. And I am sick and tired of engaging in these one-sided conversations, because the reality is this: to ask the question, can men heal themselves? Yes. Should they have to? No. Can women heal themselves? Yes. Should they have to? No. We need to heal. We need to walk with each other. We need to care enough about each other and love each other to be involved in each other's healing. Why not? Why not? Because JP, what affects your household, I may think you live all the way across the United States, far away from me. If you abuse your children, that have nothing to do with me, and that is not true. That is not true. Because when these people who are pedophiles and these people who are abusing children will abuse themselves. So what happens behind closed doors affects the community.
Yes.
So yes, we have to be involved in each other's healing process. I'm not saying that I coddle you. I'm not saying that I make excuses, but I have to be willing to sit with you through it. because I might have something to contribute that you are unable to produce in that moment. That's what community looks like. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got right there.
And
I
I think
appreciate you.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Auntie.
I just want to say I appreciate you both for sharing. Moderators, please make sure that you share both channels in the chat. I'm having a hard time focusing at this moment. Nephew, I want to go ahead and let you say your piece, but I want to ask this question, and I don't mean that
Hmm.
we're closing. Just let you say what you were going to say.
Hmm.
But I want to ask this question. Is Western psychology necessary for Black healing?
Mm. Mm. I would say, can y'all hear me? I would say no. I don't think Western psychology works for us. I think we tried that. I think we've been there, done that. They don't speak to us. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we got to find out, through maybe doing find out our original ancestry, doing an ancestry test, whatever, genealogy test, whatever we got to do, finding out where we really are from. I think once we do that, we're able to, go to the essence of what we are and who we are. But I think as long as we, rely on Western culture, as long as we rely on capitalism, we will continue to fail because those systems are not for us. They've never been for us. They've never been about us. They've only been put there, as a tool for us to be basically slaves to. Because that's what it was originally created from. So we have the understanding that we know, okay, this system is not for me. It's never been for me. So we gotta just break away from that. We gotta break away from that. Now I'm not saying that we gotta go and become start adopting different religions. I'm not saying that we gotta start being poly. I'm not saying none of that. Like that's your choice. You know what I mean? Whatever you choose to do with you and your house, if you want to start having kings and queens and all this stuff, that's on you. Like I can't tell you how to run your house. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, we need to basically try something different because it ain't working for us. Not for our movement, not for our people, not for our culture. It ain't working for us because it was never meant for us. You know what I'm saying? If I make something and I design something that's not meant for you, how could you benefit from it? You know what I mean? I didn't make it for you. I made it to benefit me. And as long as I make it to benefit me, I'm gonna just keep it there so it can continue to do what? Benefit for me. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about you. So we was never thought of when it came to Western culture. We was never considered. We were only put here to be free labor. And now, they try to engraft us like engrafted branches. That's a more of a biblical term. They engraft us as engrafted branches because they know, you know what I mean? Because now it's like, okay, they don't want to be looked at as bad or be looked at as a country who enslaved people. You know what I'm saying? So they want to keep up that good Americana image. You know what I mean? Which is a farce, but that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, we got to do what works for best for us. And we got to figure what that is. You know what I mean? Because the way our relationships are, the way that our culture, what we eat, sleep, breathe, think, everything is so different from Western culture. You know what I mean? Western culture is a form of culture that was given to us and that was created by our oppressor. You know what I mean? So as long as we continue to adopt those philosophies, we will always continue to fail. You know what I mean? Even if we gain financial success. You know what I'm saying? Because we can gain financial success, but what about the people that surround us? What about our families? What about the people that we really love and care about? You know what I'm saying? They may be left behind and they may never be healed or may never really have the same success that we have. You know what I'm saying? And we have to consider all of those things because how can we love people that surround us and we're not considering their plight? We're not considering their struggle. So yeah, it's not going to work for us, not as a whole. You know what I mean? So we just got to keep that in mind. I think it's on you, Anifa.
Hey, okay. You know what came to my mind when she asked that question? Neely Fuller's 9 areas. 10 areas maybe, because I know they added health, but the 10 areas of people activity that Neely Fuller talks about. And one of those areas of people activity is education. So when she mentioned
Mm.
psychology, education came to mind. And when Neely Fuller talks about those 10, well, 9 areas, and then of course the 10th one was added, which is health. When he talks about those nine areas of our people activity, he's talking about how racism shows up in all of those areas. Psychology falls under education. It does. Um, so what I wrote down is it is important for us to understand Western psychology. Why? Because it is often weaponized against us. Okay. um Amos Wilson talks about the importance of culture and people knowing their past and history, because and language and all of these things on how it's connected to the future. Okay. So he discusses in I'm talking which one of the books that I'm reading right now, because I'm a big Amos Wilson fan, guys. I think I must
Mm.
have all his books right now, but it's one of them that I'm reading right now. um the falsification of black consciousness, that's the one I'm reading. So anyway, so psychology does fall under education for me, and I think that it's important for people to understand Western psychology because it is often weaponized against us
Mm.
as people who are not the ones with the power in their hands. So when these people are in their labs, right, and they're doing these studies and all these other different types of things, this is always towards their advancement, right, or upholding their domination at the end of the day. So if it's something that's being used as a weapon, then it's important that we understand it so that we can counter it in our own lives, right? When we talk about commercial use, why they pay so much money for commercials, right? When we talk about propaganda, we talk about the machine of propaganda, right? When we talk about the news media, we talk about those things. All of that is psychology. All of it is connected to psychology because these people are
Mm.
studying the way that the brain works and they are using it for their. Go ahead.
Not just the way that any brain works. Can we get into it, y'all? I put the link to the playlist in the chat earlier. I will make sure that I link it to the description. But can we talk about this? Okay. We all know, and Godfrey, wait a minute. I don't have it queued up. Godfrey says it best in one of his interviews with DJ Vlad. Anyway, we are the oldest living consciousness on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not just any brains, our brains. They have been picking our bodies apart since they realized the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They go back over there and find out all the time. We all came from right here. Dang it! Just let them find one outside the diaspora. I swear the whole game will change for everybody. But still, we are the oldest living consciousness on the planet. It- the That means that we have known the oppression the majority of the time, right? So why don't we talk about that? When I say Western psychology, I really went Western medicine. I said it in the chat. I had to go, and so I was in a hurry. But why do we accept that because they put it in a book and they said, hey, look, the bodies look the same, that what the bodies need are the same? Without going into the other things at this point, I do believe that the indoctrination is the issue, but why do we just, outside of that, how do we break we have the same things on the outside, but on the inside, we need something different?
Mm.
I will let whomever feels it go ahead on this one.
Well, I do need to. I do need to go, family.
Okay.
But I mean, and that's true. We've been picked apart. We've been, we've been prodded. We've been, miseducated. All those things. You know what I'm saying? All these things have been done to us consistently. And I think the one thing that we have to realize is that we are not each other's enemy. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of times people are running around just saying, "Oh, men and women, we don't need each other." You know what I'm saying? It's not a third, and we do. You know what I mean? A man cannot fully coexist without having his woman there. A woman can't coexist completely without having her male counterpart there. Something about that dynamic that's just so special and so beautiful that what I mean, we don't neither no none of us really want to be alone. Nobody wants to be alone, and none of us wants to really run from that. We all want that as a part of our lives, but how do we get there? What I'm saying? We all are just trying to figure out how to get there and how to have those functional relationships between each other. You know what I mean? So, but as far as the system, we know what the system is. We've seen it over and over again. You know what I mean? Through slavery, through post-slavery, through segregation, through civil rights. You know what I mean? Through after the civil rights era to now the modern era. Like we've seen it. You know what I mean? It's what's known don't has to it never has to be said. You know what I mean? Like we understand what it is. You know what I mean? Or at least we shouldn't. If we don't have an understanding, then we need to get some understanding. You know what I mean? Do your research, all right? It's not hard. It's right there. You know what I mean? And for those who act like it doesn't exist or they don't want to face it, listen, you're gonna get your reality check one way or the other. You know what I mean? Hopefully you get it in a way that's suitable for you and that's consumable for you that you're not traumatized by. You know what I mean? I don't want you to be pulled over by the police and then something crazy happened to you. I don't want you to be denied a home because of the shade of your skin. You know what I mean? Even though you have the money and resources to afford that home. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to lose your job opportunity because, what I mean, or they give you a job opportunity because of what you look like. Because you have to be the token, Negro in that field. You know what I'm saying? Not based on your qualifications. So I don't want us to go through those things. But if it takes that for you to wake up, then guess what? You're gonna get woke up somehow. You know what I mean? The alarm clock can go off on you. You know what I mean? When it goes off, you're gonna have to wake up. You know what I'm saying? You have to wake up, or you're gonna continue to be sleeping. Things are gonna continue to happen to you over and over again. Thank you, Arshawn. Thank you. Appreciate you, bro. That is my new YouTube journey. No videos yet. It is coming soon, people. I'm working. All right, I'm working on it.
Well, go. You
Um,
want to tell us what it's about, nephew, before you get out of here? And I want to say thank you so
um,
much. So much has been going on that we, really communicated. But I really do appreciate you all so much. Thanks for showing up and showing out. I'm truly proud of y'all. Thank you.
oh, most definitely. You already know. Honestly, you already know how the love is there. Sister Anifa, we definitely will communicate. I'll definitely reach out to you through Instagram. And we'll schedule some time the network and interview with you. But the intellectual soapbox is a platform that's basically there for people who want to have intellectual conversations, who want to have conversation about relationships, about life, about social and economic issues, and it's just a free flowing platform where we accept all walks of life, and we're here just to have those conversations that are respectable and that are filled with love and also filled with trying to find solutions, to life's everyday questions. You know what I mean? And also, we're trying to entertain you as well. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a lot of things that are going to be insightful, a lot of things that you're going to see. You're going to learn. We're also going to have some financial literacy things that we're doing on there that I'm working up on as well. So yes, everybody stay tuned. You know what I mean? Definitely. You know what I mean? If you haven't already, like subscribe to my other channel, which is Knowledge and Relationships. You know what I'm saying? We're doing some great things over there. You know what I mean? And y'all definitely better subscribe to Anifa, Sister Anifa's channel, Anifa Nalia. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Don't mean to butcher your name if I did. And definitely like to subscribe to Auntie JP. You know what I mean? Show her some love. You watching?
Thank
You might as well
you.
like and subscribe. You know what I mean? It
Right?
only makes sense. You know what I mean? Hit that notification, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell. You know what I mean? Hit that bell
Thank
so you
you
can
for
be
that,
saved by the
nephew.
bell. Definitely, definitely. But yeah, much love, family. I'm a holler. Y'all know what it is.
Yep. Have a good one. Peace.
Later.
Anifa, because of me starting late, and I admit that outright, you didn't get to introduce yourself or any of those things. We're gonna do some theme songs and then we're gonna get ready to get out of here. But if you would like to go ahead and do the opening that should have happened now, and go ahead and do that, and then we'll get back into it. Hold on.
You mean the opening like my channel? Is that what it's?
Yeah,
Is that
just who you are. Explain
Oh,
who
okay.
you are. Yes, and what I should have done in the
Okay.
beginning. Yes, my
All right.
bad.
So I'm Hanifa, and I go by Hanifa Nayela on YouTube. I am still sort of feeling out my channel, but I think I have an idea of the direction I want my channel to go in. I'm very much about self development because I think that that is where everything begins. Um, everything that we are trying to fix starts with the self. And so I'm very much I'm in this space to have those type of conversations where people are able to come and not necessarily talk about other people, but to talk about themselves and how they can do better so that they can be their best self for their families, for their community, and for the collective overall. So check me out at Hanifa Nayela on YouTube. Nayela is Nailah. I think Sean put the link in the chat. So, yeah, hit the link, subscribe. And I'm there every Friday at 5 p.m., 5 to 7 p.m. Sometimes we go over and I talk about a variety of topics. The topic coming up this Friday is about matching energy and why it's such a bad idea to match energy. So we're gonna really get into that, and people taking you off your square and what that means and who really wins in situations like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I apologize once again for not doing that in the beginning and for you bearing with me. Like I said, getting back into streaming again. Hey, Don Frank, so glad to see you, girl. How's your spirit? It's like riding a bicycle, but I do need to dust off the pedals and shine everything up good and nice. Still getting the hang of this thing, and I'm trying to move to another system too. So yeah, I think when thank you, Wanda Washington. We appreciate that. She said it was a good show. We truly look at my signal getting ready to go out. So let's do this. Let's see. Hanifa, do you have a theme song for me, guys? I'm gonna drop the link in the chat in case there's anybody who needs a little spiritual healing from your spiritual DJ. That's me, JP. So that we can make sure that you leave here feeling good. It wasn't too heavy of a conversation. And smoke sessions really have never been about smoking out anybody. Now, if you show up and you don't act right, I got some act right for you. But mostly it's about talking about the things that we just aren't talking about. Having the conversations in a way where we're not hitting at anyone. We're not trying to do a whole lot of harm. We're out here trying to have a positive conversation and bring the community together. We may not agree on everything or everyone. Again, by the way, you guys, while we're here, you know, even despite that, Darrell, like I said at the beginning of the stream, Darrell lost his channel. So please go over to the Darrell Long channel and show some support. That's if it's still up. Sorry, I don't mean it that way, but yeah, it's still there for him. He is at. mm, Wait a minute. Are you serious? Oh, there it is. Never mind. It's too messy for me. It's too messy for me. Let me just say this. You know what? You can truly, truly, truly love someone and want to be there for them. But at some point, you have to love them and let them, right? So, mad love, much hope, well wishes, gonna be there, all that jazz. But going through all of this, yeah, I don't think that those things are necessary. So yeah. Thank you for the $5 cash app, Big Rig. You're so sweet. I'm sure enough gonna go ahead and roll up that extra half a gram that I was saving for later too. Uh, I know that's so silly of me. I'm sorry. Okay. But yes, Juana, due to all of this, you know what? Let's just go ahead and address that, Hanifa, and then we'll make sure that everybody leaves here with a clean spirit.
Sure.
Again, I mentioned these YouTube titles in the beginning and pulling the tactics that are being used out here in YouTube in order to stake a claim or make a name for oneself are just downright despicable. Knowing someone's personal history and journey and turning that into the name of a stream or content without their permission, the doxing that's going on right now, knowing the mental health state of society, why choosing to pull apart people's darkest secrets or what they're insecure about is just downright icky. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, yeah, you're human. I see you. I respect you. I love you. I get it. When do we stop matching energy? When do we say, okay, I fought, right? But how, because we're stuck in that energy until we do. So what's the catalyst?
I think it boils down to what do you really want? Because I said, the reality is that when two people enter a space, they're either there to, and there's conflict, you're either going to resolve or you're going to rumble. Those are the two R's. You are either here to resolve or you're here to rumble. And the reality is that this that people, and it's funny because the matching energy thing was already scheduled for this week. And then all of this, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna, because I was like, I'm not changing it. I'm just gonna talk about it. But it has nothing to do with it, because I keep seeing it across social media where people be
Mm-hmm.
like, I match energy, I don't take the high road and so forth. But at the end of the day, we have poor conflict resolution skills. We just do. We don't understand that we have to value each other in order to want to resolve conflict with each other. Because if I don't have any value in you, I don't respect you, JP, and you come at me a certain way, I'm not thinking about, let me go to woman, find out maybe she was having a bad day. If I just want to fight, none of those things matter to me. But if I want to resolve, then I can come to you and say, hey, you kind of came at me a little rough the other day. What's up? And then allow us to have that conversation. These things are possible, but it's all about, at the end of the day, what is the outcome you're looking for. If you just want to fight, then that's what's going to happen. But if you really want to resolve so that you can build, then that can happen. That means that if I'm up here, you don't meet me up here, JP.
Mm-hmm.
You don't meet me up here. You wait until I come back down and you meet me there. Because if you meet me up here, all we're going to do is fight.
That's
So it's all
fair.
about purpose at the end of the day.
So here's the pushback that I have to my own question, because it's still going around for me right now. I don't know if you've seen or been approached or whatever. Have you felt this MLM kind of vibe coming out of the YouTube space? The join us over here. We'll help promote your channel. We'll help you grow. We'll get you to the okay. Um, that and speaking against it, right? If that is what the underlying cause is it is he fighting without merit? Are they fighting without merit? You understand? There's a dog in the fight for all of us in that way. If that's what's being done, like shadow banning and that MLM culting push down if you don't join us kind of thing.
Mhm.
How do It's so hard. I don't know how to ask the question in the correct way. Watching our people tear up everything, scorched earth, Hanifa, is what's happening right now to
Yeah.
spirits, communities, all for what? I, do you know if it's not the MLM cult thingy? What if it's not? I'm confused, and I mean that with all honesty. I'm confused. I understand if it's actually a bunch of people, a cabal of people coming together after, a small couple of people who are running their mouth too much. Um, Yet, are there too many players still, or too many people involved for it actually to be spoken about? What the hell? What the hell, Hanifa? What the hell? That's my new term. I'm gonna get it on my phone and then just play it. What the hell?
My 3 year old says that. What the hell?
It's so I don't understand, and I say that as you know, I'm I mean, I do understand, but thinking about the ones coming behind us, the ones trying these things, all of that stuff, who who is it? What do we do? What do we say? How? Give
No
me
one.
something to work with where I can start trying to fathom this thing so it don't happen no more.
I think that it's not wise to try to fix situations when they're escalated.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, you gotta really let it come down, and then have the. And I think that's what's happening is we're so eager to see it fixed right now that we're not willing to like allow it to kind of like cool off first, because it's like, oh my gosh, the damage that's being done while everyone is escalating, unfortunately. And then there's a lot of casualties of this war that's happening as well, you know. I know for myself, I had to think of it this way. With what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, and I think of like the people on the ground. So if you know that you're not involved in the war, what do? Some people leave the country. Some people get out. Some people get away from it. And you know what? After the war is finished, some of them go back home and do what? Rebuild. So your place in all of this might be at in the rebuilding juncture. That may be where you come in. You get what I'm trying to say? Because you cannot build when things are escalated. There's no building to be done there. There's no building to be done there. The only thing that can be done there is people make space for it to do what it do and let it cool itself down. Once it's cooled down, that's where the rebuilding, that's where the reconciliation, that's where the forgiveness, that's where that come in. It's not going to happen up here. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of us have a hard time understanding that because we want it fixed right now. You know what I mean? It's my 3-year-old having a tantrum, right? And I have work that I want to do, and this is my real life. So I want him to shut up right now and stop screaming, right? And so it's like, okay, I go in, and while he's having a tantrum, I'm yelling because now I'm trying to get louder than him. And I think that's going to fix the situation. I've learned though, you got to allow him to get that out. And after he done, and by the way, it doesn't take that long. After he's finished, I go in and I say, you done now? You got all the tears out? Now let's have a conversation. This is what you do when you get upset. But when my 3-year-old is on the floor kicking and screaming because he wanted a popsicle and he didn't finish his lunch, that's not the time for me, because what ends up happening is I go in and guess what? I start to match his energy, JP, believe it or not. A 3-year-old. That's real.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us, especially if we're not involved, we really need to just let go of the idea of trying to fix it when it's so escalated. It's not going to happen. We really have to let it play itself out. That's just true. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the thing, it's just looking at it when you get to a certain point where people like Don and Big Rig and folks love you and they show up in your different social media spaces, not just on YouTube because you ain't got no community tab yet or whatever it is, right? And they want you to know, yeah, I'm concerned. I see this thing that you were talking about, and you're like, man, I know, because I walked away from it.
Yeah.
All you got to do is swing at me once, and especially if I can bob and weave and get back up, let me walk away. Because if I don't, I'm trying to snatch spirits, and I don't want to do that to anybody unless they really truly come from me. Right? This is YouTube. I'm not worried about
Yeah.
that. After my recent lived experience, child. Matter of fact, today I'm a month old today. I don't know if you know this or not, but on February 2nd, 2022, I died of COVID. And yeah, so technically I'm a month old, and just seeing all of this, it's like I don't want no parts of it. I
Right.
understand why you got to fight and why you got to do what you got to do. And I was over, guys. Make sure that you go check out Mr. Real Estate. He's really entertaining, really great. He keeps calling me JP, the aspiring monarch, when I'm not on the panel. But I'm gonna tell you know what, I'm cool with that. If we have a constitutional monarchy for the black community, I will take that over what we've got going right now. You understand? Eventually, y'all can write it right out the system, but we got to stop doing what we are doing. And so, for right now, I'm just gonna love from a distance. You know, you really and truly need me, I'm gonna treat you, treat you like I treat my fellas. Hey, son, it's been 2.5 months. You straight? Have you eaten? That kind of thing. And I think that we have to be able to understand that as content creators. That's one of the things that I can admit that I got wrong in that entire situation. Is you're right. The first time I was like, oh, I see this right now, and I should have just been like, you know what? No, but for me, I'm seeing it as being helpful, saying, "Hey, this is not good optics for YouTube. This is not good optics for your platform." Not realizing that someone would see that as a disrespect or any of those things, and then understanding that the behind the scenes inner workings, and the things that I had already said about these nasty cult like things going on. I'd already talked about the same people who are now coming for Darrell, but I'm just a one hit wonder. I'm going to say what I got to say and move on because you're not relevant to me. And I don't think that you can do anything to help the children that I'm trying to reach, or if I don't think that you're going to help me uplift the names of black men and people who've been murdered in these streets, I don't have a use for you. So go do what you do. Just leave me alone. Right. And so I didn't care about the shadow banning and the nonsense. I had a greater thing in mind. Um, and yet, now it's just a matter of being in the space makes me feel, you know, it goes against all of the joy and happiness that I've managed to find and experience. So I wish all of the players in it the best of luck on their journeys and their own experiences. I really wish that you would stop um, going for the mental health issues.
But
You know,
here's what I think also too, that those of us who are in this space and we are creating content or having conversations, we when there's war, we need to provide a place of refuge because
yeah.
people are often looking for that. That's the fact. Okay, people are often looking for that. It's sort of like, I don't want to deal with this. Let me see what JP is talking about. Let me see what Hanifa is talking about. But if we're talking about that they're trying to get away from, then where do they go? So it's a matter of, how do I provide a safe space of refuge to where, look, we could talk about these topics. We don't have to engage in that. You know what I mean? But what I'm seeing a lot of is that all of us are trying to jump in and fix stuff. And I don't think it's the time for fixing. You have to let it play out. It's too hot right now.
Well, Big Rig says, but this is why we step in before the train gets off track. But I also learned some things don't always need to be said. He just kicks it in the back fade and observe the whole get down. And yeah, that's my thing. Like I said, at this point, I'm a fierce warrior for mine. By the way, let me just say this real quick. Thank you to Don Harden, Big Rig, Brother Clarence, and I think there was someone else who sent a cash app. I really do appreciate all of you guys. I being an elder in this space, um, and a mother, you want to see the best outcome in
Yes.
the entire thing,
Mhm.
right? And so yeah, my new thing, I just turn it over to the universe. There's some things that we can do and some things that we can't. Like I said, the universe's bank account is bigger than mine, and the universe knows how much I've poured into that. So, yeah,
But even I'll give you an example, and you may not even realize this. My last show that you were on,
mhm,
I didn't feel my best when I finished that conversation. And the
really,
reason why is, yeah, because it kind of digressed in a direction that I didn't expect for it to go, or I planned for it to go. And it ended up kind of dabbling into what's happening in the space right now. And that's not why I'm here. And so
mhm,
once I got off, it's so funny because my boo, the man that holds me accountable, he should have pulled me up on it. And he had to talk to me about it and pretty much in his own words say, stay focused. Stay
Yep.
focused on what you intend to bring, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. I know you have feelings about what's happening. You know what I'm saying? But you can reside outside of it. And
Yes.
so, even though I had already felt that, I was like, okay, I'm back on my center again. Because at the end of the day, it's just like, look, I was in a chat, and because it was so emotionally charged, someone came at me the wrong way. And in that chat, I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to address you going forward. And I just left it there. But I was just like, even just being there, you end up a casualty. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. You just because at some point you're like, well, this just don't make no more sense to be hearing this nonsense. Let me go. No, this is just ridiculousness, right? And so today I was like, they're not on that other platform. They're somewhere else. And in this space, I'm just going to go up and say, you know what? I still love you. I see you. I don't mind your presence here. It is what it is, and doodly doodly do, right? And that was just more about making sure that it's clear. I'm not interested. Like, because I never got to say in its entirety. Let's just not me. I don't. I don't care. I don't. And I wanted to make sure that it was. I don't care about that. I care about the person. Um, and there's not more that I can do. So I'm not. Um, and so yeah, that was it. But what I will say is you're right. Like, I don't like for people to leave. I hate when they come into the space upset. It's one of the things, like, I just start a live for Big Rig or Top Slug or whomever, because okay, you're not doing well. Well, I be in this, flare situation all the time. Let's go on here and smoke and chat, and ta-da, we here together. And that's why I said I'm going to fight for the ability to do theme songs and the fair use, because it does make someone feel better. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
even when you don't have people to talk to, you can turn on a jam and be like, "Oh snap! Okay, I remember this. Cool it now. We got to," and then just lift your spirit. And so you're right. We see. We got to. Who were you in love with? Go ahead. Go ahead. We go. Y'all get your theme songs in the chat if you haven't already. Some of y'all left, but that's cool. Who were you in
I
love
put
with?
it in the private.
I got that. But who were you in love with in New Edition?
Oh gosh, I don't know their names like that. So JP, don't put me on the spot. So let me
What?
tell
Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, Mike. If I like a girl, who cares who you like?
you,
Cool.
I don't even know, like, if I don't know their faces to the name. Let me just say this. Let me tell you this. And I say this to my Black American friends. Do not put me on the spot. Okay? I we
Oh, now
love
you're
the
not that black though. Wait a minute
no,
ago,
we
you was
right.
sister soldier, arm in the air and everything. Now you're a little bit
No,
less black.
honestly, because it has this game, right? Like some of these games, that is like black card and stuff like that. When I'm with my Black American friends, I'd be like, I'm not playing. I'm not playing because y'all about to put me on the spot, okay?
Yeah.
Because the things that you guys call old school is not old school to me. Now, did I know the songs? Yes, but to literally break them down, like, I don't know who is who. I'm being honest. Y'all can revoke my black card after this, but okay.
Listen, to be honest, I just got my black card after this experience. I've been dancing and singing and whatnot. I didn't know how to hula hoop or like soul skate, as they call it.
Oh
I
gosh,
couldn't
now
even.
I knew those.
No, ma'am, I couldn't even wiggle my hips like
What?
that. Right. So now, like, because it's part of what I had to do in order to keep me alive for 2 days, like jumping up and down, singing and dancing, anything to get oxygen moving and all of the congestion out. Right. But now I'm like, oh snap! Today we were comparing. Like, I got muscles I ain't had before. The other day I told Daniel, I was like, I got thighs. He was like, you ain't got good sense though. But it does. Music is this wonderful thing. But yeah, I just recently I feel like now I can say I've truly got my black card. I may have been woke for a long time and known my blackness, but until right now, when I can figure out how to hula hoop and soul skate, did I truly understand what it is to be a Black American. It's like,
Roller skating, hula hooping. I had all those experience now. I'm good. Yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, I'm gonna start with Big Rig's theme song, and then go to yours, and then if Mister and Mrs. He said, she said, come back, we'll do theirs. And it wasn't. I didn't intend to actually go this long, so I really do appreciate you staying up here with us, with us. Go ahead, since you said it, keep it. Boy, it takes some getting used to all of those things. Fool's Paradise, Melissa Morgan. Hey. What do you do to comfort your spirit, or to make sure going into the stream and after the stream that you are in a good space?
I usually brush up on reading. Honestly, reading comforts me in a way that I can't even begin to describe. If it's not reading, it's music. But coming into a stream, I kind of like brush up on my notes, and or I might grab a book that's outside of what I'm going to be discussing real quick, and just kind of like settle my spirit before I enter in. I hate rushing into a stream. Oh my gosh, it's the worst.
Yeah, I know that feeling, which is why I just say it now. Listen, y'all, even when I'm on time, I'm late. So y'all just got to make sure y'all love me. I do my best to put it out there. Hanifa knows. She was like, Monday, she was, ma'am. I know, girl. It was a lot going on. I do apologize. I'm still working. And then, I'm still actually healing. Like, a lot of the swelling has gone down, but they forced me to have some things that I didn't want done. And so I have to, like, my body's purging of toxins, and so my legs still swell some, and I feel heavy still sometimes. So I have to remind myself, hey, you should be resting, sitting down, laying down, not sitting down, go, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm working on it still.
Mhm.
Everything, but just that, I still, every morning I'm ready to get up and dance, open the windows, do all of the stuffs, and it's an amazing feeling knowing that just a year ago, child, I really just kind of was laying down more often than I was up doing anything at all. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm joyful, actually. All right, Big Red, let me see. Let me make sure I got the sound up. The sound's up there, and we're gonna play Fool's Paradise. Here we go. Hey. Our fellas tickle me, man. They be in them fields more than anybody want to say. It's just my personal opinion on it. Oops, wrong one. That one. And that one. Fair use for spiritual healing purposes. Yep, that's right. Feel free to support your spiritual DJ. That's me, JP, at CashApp. $purpcorn. Hey, hold on. Right. Fair use. Look, Big Rig. Yay! I never said that I would be your everything, but you know that I love you, baby, and it's gonna be such a shame when you start living life. Hey, he said her voice is like his mom's. That's the thing for me, Hanifa. One of the things that I realized, and I don't think, I think maybe if more men and women talked about that, they would start to be able to communicate better. So many of us have lost our mothers. And in the same way that we hold our mothers in such, I'm not saying that it's right in this way. Please don't take that offense, y'all. But we all hold our mothers in such high regard, like you said, the gynocracy and those things. Perhaps if those of us who lost our mothers spoke about them in a more open way, we'd be able to be like, oh, you too. I understand you. And then there's that, and it's not a hurt that came from, okay, it's not a hurt that came from a love relationship between you and some other man or woman, right? You understand? In that way, like, it's not a relationship type hurt. It's a child to mother type hurt. If we could get there versus the, oh, you're a man and you hurt me, just a child who lost their mother, right? If we could look at each other in that way, and then start having it. That was the whole, like, that's one of my, I don't know, out of my first 20 videos, it's got to be one of the ones where I played Dear Mama, and I was just like, y'all, I want you to know the feeling that she had to know when he wrote that song for her. You know what I'm saying? I want you to know the feeling that I had knowing when Daniel picked up that phone to call my sons, they showed up in the capacity that they could. That is what it is to be a parent, but a mother specifically, right? It's the same thing. Like, you have faith in God until you and God have to go on that faith walk together. You have faith in your mother until she's, and what she's teaching you until she's no longer here. And then you have to walk on the words that she gave you. We are the ones who put that there, it's if we're not being emoting, feeling, compassionate beings. We're not compassionate outright, not just kind, not just loving, but compassionate. How are we ever going to get this community or just our children or ourselves together? That's it. I'm sorry. I know I went on a diatribe. I'm going to get a Hanifa song now.
You're
Go ahead.
fine. I got no. I was gonna say I gotta get ready to get up out of here, but you're fine, JP. It's you're allowed to, what you use in the word these days, emote, express. You say you're not using feeling. And
Nope.
I'm glad you're still here with us because I had COVID and it's a beast. And the
Thank you.
recovery time is just as long. I mean, you think you're good and then whoo, you can barely get up and your breathing is off, and yeah, so I understand.
That is what I have been hearing, and yet, I have to say, that's why I posted it. The thing, I was like, I had COVID, with food tastes absolutely fantastic to me. I'm so damn joyous and content and happy to be here. It's just, it's different. It's different. And so I understand. I'm gonna play a little bit of your theme song as you go ahead and say the rest of your tadars and goodbyes. I appreciate you, and I really do hope that we can do this more often. Have panels with other mothers, just about mothering in general. And how we can move this forward. We can see each other with compassion first. So I appreciate you. You go ahead and shout your channel out, and I am going to play your theme song while you do.
Yeah, just check me out at Hanifa Nayela here on YouTube. And again, my focus is kind of developing of self, because I believe that everything begins with self. Everything that we are trying to work towards, everything that we're trying to do, building the collective, building our communities, has to begin first with the building of ourselves. So if you haven't subscribe, go ahead. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check my channel out. Hanifa Nayela. Nayela is Nailah. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you stopping in and sharing your thoughts with us. And me, chat. We love you. I will make sure that I do my best to shout you out whenever I can. I think you're in the Facebook group, but please make sure you go over there and share anything that we didn't talk about or anything you want to make sure that we discuss in the future. I'll post whatever links I can as well. Thank you so much. I like
You're
this.
welcome.
If the
Are you
beat drop,
ready?
you know I'm about to be a hot mess.
We
Oh!
like jam nation. You realize all the
See?
time we waste. You
Hey!
realize all the pain we face. These poor cops
Oh!
feminine high fish. dash we raise. Please
It's
sympathize
that
all
ugly
the lies
music
we
face,
raise.
right? Like
Please realize all the time.
when you just want to be like, I will come for you.
Feel money energy, drink a couple quarters on my chorus, then I code up. If I rule the world, money stacks for all my daughters. Never ask for payment
Oh,
in
let
the
me get my
womb times
signage
9.
up before I
Now
get
we see
myself
the
in trouble
blood on
now.
the street times try. Feminine energy, balance
There
of
we
the
go.
indestructible in the
Mwah.
vaginal.
Thank you
Heaven
so
in
much, sis.
thine.
Keep your
Heaven
spirit
is
up. We'll
mine.
see you in the
Spiritual,
stream.
lyrical, mother sang sweetest taboo.
Oh
with
my
no
God,
kind.
you
If
guys,
I
that
was
was a
astonished by the level
fantastic
of shame,
conversation.
feminine.
Hanifa, I really and truly appreciate you. Everybody who stayed with us through the conversation, thank you so much for joining us and supporting. I know that Knowledge of Relationships has a live that started, I think, about 30 minutes ago. I won't be joining, but I think that you should go over and support. Everybody who's into Cash App, I appreciate you. I will make sure that I put a shout out in the Facebook and on the Buy Me a Coffee. Guys, please feel free to go over and check out the Buy Me a Coffee. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna play a theme song before I go. Nope, I'm gonna play the closing. Thank you, Big Rig, for saying good stream. Sima, hey, I'm just being as honest as I've always tried to be. God, listen, Big Rig, go somewhere now. See, now you know what? Meet me over on Instagram so we can talk about this 420 conversation. Anyway, you guys keep your spirit up. I am going to play the outro. Uh-oh. And by the way, I will be changing it because we're saying emotional support. I don't need none, but some of y'all do. I'll support y'all anytime, though. Keep your spirit up. I'll see you in the stream. Hey citizens, how's your spirit? It's JP. Welcome to our compassionate melanated community. This is where we unpack our mind. I'm going to unpack some of mine over the course of this video and throughout the time that we spend together. But first, I want to tell you what community means to me. Community is the purposeful, consistent effort to support and uplift the circumstances of those with the least agency for the betterment of all. And when I say compassion,
There's not a moment in my life that doesn't come with pain. But it's my job to try to make sure that it comes with some joy. I try to smile. I try to get out here and talk to y'all. My community here is small, but it's mine. We're all positive. We're all trying to move forward. We made it through this pandemic, and we're all still whole.
But we had a conversation about what we could do different, and I was thinking about that. So I decided, hey, I'll do this pop up because according to YouTube, I haven't been live in a month. That's not true. They just blocked the last couple of videos because there was way too many theme songs. Speaking of, does anybody have a theme song for me? Anybody?
Medication works. Y'all don't understand. I wish that I could help you understand. I do this so that you could try to understand, so that you could know that there's a whole host of people out here like me who never get to leave too far away from their homes, and yet we have amazing lives. We're happy in our lives, and yet we have a whole lot to share. Don't count us out. Don't hold us down. And for fuck's sake, we are not inspiration porn. I am not here so that you can go back and be like, yay, at least I'm not JP. That ain't it.